Hey everyone, you're listening to the official podcast of 4PlayerNetwork.com. Check us out at that address for everything you need to know about our community, monthly giveaways, and nightly live streams. You can even support us on Patreon at patreon.com/4Player. And last but not least, you can catch the live recordings of these podcasts every single Thursday night on our Twitch channel. We hope to see you there. Enjoy. Hey everyone, welcome to 4Player Podcast. This is episode 677. It's April 21st, 2021, and my name is Nick Henderson. I'm joined tonight by Brad Simons.
Yo.
Nolan Hedstrom.
How's it going, everybody?
Christopher Davis.
Good evening.
And Christopher Guthridge.
Hello.
And we got a good show. It's been 2 weeks since we recorded a show because last week we got together and played some Monster Hunter together, which was a lot of fun. That was honestly my first co-op. Actually, sorry, not technically speaking. I did some co-op with Chai and his girlfriend, about a year ago. This was like my first, I'm really into Monster Hunter, playing it co-op, and it was great. So we're going to talk more about Monster Hunter tonight. I don't know what y'all are holding up. Nolan, what is this you're holding up to the camera?
Don't worry about it.
Oh. Y'all are bastards. We'll talk more about Monster Hunter in a bit. But of course, this past week, or actually in the past 2 weeks, a lot has happened. We've got a new demo for Resident Evil Village with actual gameplay that we're going to talk about tonight. And there's been some weird Sony news, some weird, unexpected, maybe bad Sony news that we're going to talk about. And we got a bunch of viewer questions to answer tonight. So let's get into it. Unless y'all have anything y'all want to throw in before we roll right into this. I know it's been 2 weeks. Anything y'all want to get off your chest?
Oh yeah, I didn't know the Resident Evil 8 demo was fucking only available for one night, so I didn't fucking play it.
Yeah, we're talking about who's going to provide footage for it today in Discord.
I
Nolan's like, I'll
downloaded
capture
it.
some. We're like, oh, you'll just capture some, Nolan? How are you going to do that? I fully expected Nolan to have some secret plan. It's like, oh yeah,
But Chris Davis already had footage.
I have
Yeah,
footage
footage
from
from
my
the stream.
stream that night.
so we're gonna have two Chris Davises on screen at once while we're talking about it. Is that what you're saying?
Well, no, it was on my PS5, so I don't have a webcam in my living room. So
Oh,
I'm not on the screen technically, but yeah.
gotcha. Okay. Well, honestly, I think we're probably going to lead with Resident Evil tonight because it's the kind of the new hotness. We're going to, like I said, we're going to touch on Monster Hunter. We're going to revisit It Takes Two. Brad has a new game he wants to talk about tonight. What is it called, Brad? Before Your Eyes?
Before Your Eyes.
Before Your Eyes. We're going to talk about Before Your Eyes. But I figured since obviously Resident Evil is the biggest, probably the biggest thing to happen in the past 2 weeks, we should lead with that. I don't know where we're going to start. I want to preface this by saying I made the personal decision to not play the demo. I didn't even watch the.
Me too.
I didn't even watch. It was forced upon you, Nolan. But welcome to the Media Blackout Club with
Pretty
me.
much.
So who has played the demo then?
You, Brad, Crispy. Did you play it?
Oh, totally.
No, you and Brad have played it.
Okay. All right.
So I don't know who wants to lead this.
What'd you
I'm
think,
not gonna-
Chris Davis?
Well, I have
third
prepared a
person.
statement.
Oh God, he's doing this again.
You can't do the statement thing when two of us have played the game.
He's got facts. He's spitting facts here.
I got facts here, man, but I can break it up. How about I break up the paragraphs? How about that?
Okay, but
Paragraphs.
All right, we're gonna have to.
This
We're gonna
better be
feel like in
worth it.
Chris, hold
in
on,
the
Chris
future-
Davis. This needs to be a demo of a statement.
I
in
mean,
the
it's
future, I feel like if it's a game only you've played, it makes sense. But if it's a game we both played and we're trying to have a conversation, the speech doesn't make sense.
I mean, I'm just saying, I got positive feedback from last show. So
No, you did, and I think it was great. But here's what the rules, the ground rules I want to lay for this segment that somebody in chat has christened Chris's Corner. no paragraphs. These statements need to be bulleted lists. Unless it's a game that only you played, like Brad said, and nobody else is going to talk about it.
Well,
Then you can hit us
we
with
have
a
to
maximum.
open with this statement. It wouldn't make any sense to have a conversation
I mean, okay.
first and then he reads the fucking statement.
Do you want a demo of this statement I prepared?
Yes. Give me
Okay,
the-
if you
the
can do it,
here's the
TLDR.
here
I want
is
the
my
whole
Give
thing.
me. Hold on. I want Chris's crib sheets.
I want the
That's what
whole
I want.
goddamn thing.
Thank you, Crispy.
Unabridged.
Put effort
We've
into
talked
this
about
shit.
this for a lot already, so I think you should
Speak-
just read the
speak
whole
quick.
thing.
Okay, here's your
Speak
demo
like a
for my
CX
statement.
debater in high school.
The demo for Resident Evil 8 is kind of bad.
Because it's
Okay.
a bad game?
It's having the makings of some bad things. that
Okay, so-
Oh man, let's just
bad
have a
feelings about.
conversation. I'm sorry, Chris
Okay.
Davis, but I've been waiting to talk about this shit.
Okay. So let's get two things out of the way then. Number one, we have to accept that this is a combat demo, just meant to show off a glimpse of early game battles where you do werewolf battles in not Transylvania. That's
Right.
what this demo is. It is a very
That is what I've
small
heard,
area.
I don't
There's
think
very little
so.
exploration.
Yeah, but it's just like a tiny little cross section. There's not even that much combat. I mean, I'd say the demo's mostly cutscenes.
I mean, I would agree with that as well. I mean, there's not a whole lot
I
of like meaty
to the demo.
exploration to do.
Well, no, I mean, sure, but what does that mean in a demo sense, anyways? I mean, you see the makings of exploration, right? You see things that a lock you can't pick yet, a hatch you can't turn yet, or a lever you can't turn yet because you don't have the handle, right?
Mhm.
It's you see very Resident Evil stuff. Hey, if I were to open this conversation, I would say, hey, do you like Resident Evil 7? It seems like it's probably going to kind of be like that, but in like a Resident Evil 4E setting. I mean, it's called Resident Evil 4 The Village. This village
You know, Resident Evil Village
feels a lot like, outside of the snow and the fact that you're fighting like madmen that kind of look like werewolves. I guess they're not fully turned into werewolves yet, but other than that, it feels very Resident Evil. I mean, 4 Village, right? Down to
Mhm.
the
Wait, you
down
keep
to like the details, like the gates and the doors and the fences. It's like Resident Evil 4's Village by way of Resident Evil 7's play style.
Yeah.
right.
That's what it feels
Okay.
like.
But the thing
And-
is, in my
and-
opinion, there's no actual improvements to the formula of Resident Evil 7 in here.
I think you might be right. Now the question is, because it is a demo, it's hard to say like how big is this village space? How much backtracking are you going to do? Are
And
you,
I'm going to be honest.
like how
that-
linear is it going to be?
the crux of
when
what you're
you're-
talking about right there is like the main reason I decided I'm not playing this demo, because I was right from the get-go. I was like, I don't think this is going to answer that question, and I think because of that, this demo is probably going to do more harm than good in the long run.
Okay, well, I mean, if it's going to do any harm, it's only going to be because people are going to realize that the combat feels kind of like Resident Evil 7's combat, which is honestly a little bit of a step back. I
Mhm.
like Resident Evil 7. I don't think that the combat is like amazing. I don't think it feels that amazing. I don't think hit reactions and stuff. I feel like at the time it seemed like a little bit of a step back versus what Resident Evil 4 and 5 were doing, and maybe even 6 in terms of like mechanics, right? It seemed like a bit of a step back. But with the remakes of 2 and 3, it started to feel a little better, play a little better. This feels like it kind of forgot those advancements. So it feels like it went back to where 7's at. Nolan, go ahead.
I just had a question because I've not seen this footage yet because I didn't get to fucking play it.
Sure.
Why are you fighting Beast from X-Men?
Yeah,
Well,
these are
those
supposed to be.
those
They're
are
called
lichens.
lichens. They're
They're not
werewolves. They're
fully
fucking
turned yet.
werewolves, man.
Well,
Well,
they're
first
not.
of all,
They're transitioning. or
we
something.
knew werewolves were going to be a part of this game basically since the moment it was announced. It was literally in like the first trailer
Yeah.
they showed for this game.
Yeah,
But
sure.
and here's where this conversation I think I hate to like bring this up because I know it's ultimately where all of these Resident Evil conversations start to like break apart. But
Uh-huh.
like y'all both kind of have a negative view of this demo, but everything that you've said about it predominantly is centered around combat, and I just
Well,
don't think of Resident Evil as a combat centric series from the beginning, which is kind of why like these things don't bother me, and why I didn't think this demo was going to do me any good, because the things I want to know about are like you were talking about,
I mean,
like how linear is this game? How much exploration are you doing? How big are these environments?
I th-
Because
I think it's going to be kind of like Resident Evil 7.
Mhm.
but like
That's good, right?
no, I
Yeah.
mean Resident Evil, you're talking to
Because
someone who
7 was a
considers
good
Resident
game.
Evil 7 and like one of my favorite games in the series, but I'm also
Yeah.
the same. Like if you were to ask me to like rank the in terms of importance, what is most important in a Resident Evil game, combat for me would be like
Sure, that's
near the
fine. I mean,
bottom. So like
sure, and people will disagree with that. Obviously,
sure, and
me and
that's
you, we of course we disagree with that. But I think the reason that people and that I bring it up is because it's not because of how important it is to this game specifically, but it's how the series has evolved over time. This is a long running series. And when a game that came out on the GameCube figured out cool shit like, oh, you shoot a dude in the hand and he drops his weapon, you shoot him in the foot and he fucking stumbles on the ground, and it forgets all that, and all of a sudden the enemies feel like spongy, and now he can't drop his weapon, now he's not stumbling like he used to. It's not so much that like it's bad or it's worse than other games. Now it's worse than what it used to be, and I don't understand
well,
that.
here's the other thing, and I think we've started to see kind of the trajectory for this series has very much been like it kind of redefines itself every like 3 games. So like 4, 5, and 6 kind of go together, make sense together because they're building upon like the same foundations or like the same, like the combat feels very similar, even though they're improving across those games. And then 7 comes out, and now it seems like 8 is following in 7's footsteps, and which is probably deprioritizing things related to combat because I think it's going to be less combat centric. Uh, and that's just kind of one of those things.
I don't think so. I think this will have more combat than 7.
Sure,
And 7 had a
I
lot of
think you're
combat by
absolutely
the end of it, and the DLC also had a lot of combat.
Like
Like I think there's going to be just as much combat in this as there was in Resident Evil 2
I mean,
or 3
so
remake
in
or
this
7. I mean,
in this small demo, there are 6 werewolves, okay? For that small an area and for what they're trying to demonstrate in this 30-minute demo, that feels like they're really upping the enemy count and the challenge of
but
combat.
you also
you get
got
a
to consider.
landmine.
But they're not
But you
changing that much is the problem.
But you also got to consider a few other things, like the fact that like one thing we know is a big part of this game, which is carrying over from 7, is kind of this 7 and in to an extent like Resident Evil Remake. They've pretty much confirmed that Lady, I'm just gonna call her Lady D, whatever her name is, Lady
Big lady.
Dimitrescu, or
Lady
yeah,
Diana.
Big Lady. She is essentially gonna be like this, like Jack, like Daddy Jack from fucking Resident Evil 7 or Mr. X
Mhm.
from Resident Evil 2, where she's following you
Yeah.
around. In which case, the especially areas where that is a constant danger, you are combat doesn't make it like lots and lots of combat doesn't make a ton of sense because
Oh
those
yeah,
sequences.
chat brings up
Those,
a good point though, Nick.
Mhm.
There's the upgrade system. Like
No, yeah,
that's a sign that combat is a big focus.
but don't get me wrong. I do think there's going to be more combat in this game. I don't think it's necessarily going to be to the same extent as like Resident Evil 4, where it's like enemies coming out the ass all the time. I feel like it's going to be more of kind of like a give and take because
Okay.
like some areas are going to be flooded with enemies and some are just going to be
Sure.
pretty.
But let me
Pretty
give you a specific
But those are the kind of
example.
questions I wanted answered, which demo was never going to answer.
Yeah, this demo isn't going
Wait.
to answer that, and the next one's probably not gonna
This
answer
game was
either.
never going to be as like Resident Evil 4. It was only ever going to be like
That is a
I mean,
big.
this is definitely
That is
the
a lot
new
of the conversation
generation.
happening right now. A lot of people are saying this
Yeah.
is like this is
Well,
people are going into this
let's
with the
ignore chat.
expectation
Let's
that this is
ignore
Resident
chat.
Evil 4.
Sorry.
And I'm not even talking about chat. I'm talking about like the zeitgeist right now around this game is a lot of people saying, "Oh my god, it's Resident Evil 4. This is a spiritual successor to Resident Evil
Well,
4."
it's called
But like
Village, and it's so reminiscent of 4.
But-
It's like ridiculous. It's so obvious that that's what they want to capture.
but it's
Yes.
also an immediate follow-up to 7. which has its own set of baggage that comes with it that you have to consider. Like it's like sure, maybe it's going to be a blend of those two, but 7 was also a very, very different thing. So
Well, let me give you a specific example of one of the things that I think that this game should have grown upon from the previous one. Okay, so when you're in combat, the good thing is that the enemies are kind of relentless. They will chase you all around the map, and they kind of won't stop. But do you remember in Resident Evil 7 how a lot of enemies were gated behind certain sections of the houses? And you could easily just disengage the AI by simply walking and entering an exit door.
The molded.
That's still here. And in fact, it's kind of worse because in the footage I was doing just now, a few minutes ago, I was being chased by every enemy on the damn map. And I ran inside a church, and the second the door closed behind me, the tense music behind me just cut out completely, and all the enemies despawned. And they all respawned back in the field where I initially found them.
That's weird.
see,
Well, yeah. Well,
and
werewolves don't like churches, so they ran away from the
That's
church.
true. Yeah.
Yeah, but
See-
they despawned. They didn't decide to leave
No, no,
and
no.
walk back
They
over
ran
there.
away. They hid.
I mean,
hid from-
here's the thing too, and Brad has said on several occasions that he thinks I'm maybe building this up too much in my head, and he's probably, well, I'm trying to avoid that, but like there's a certain implication I think that comes with what they chose to call this game, and like kind of how coy they're being about talking about it, that makes me think like this had the potential to be something dramatically different. Like it could have been like relentless enemies that follow you all over the map, like a giant map, like a giant maze-like map, like going in and out of buildings, like going over rooftops, and like having to deal with enemies and being able to like walking through a door and like despawning enemies sounds kind of lame, because it harkens back to like classic Resident Evil, which I love classic Resident Evil, but I was really hoping for this to be like a complete redefinition of the series,
Which is
and
interesting, but a little weird, because like if you get over that hang up, those expectations that you're putting on this game for some reason, I feel like there's nothing here you wouldn't really like. I mean,
no, but at the
you
same
didn't
time,
play
like,
that demo, but I imagine if you played this demo, you'd been like, "Fuck,
no,
this is
no,
this is
dude,
awesome! I can't wait."
I also want to be clear. Like I've taken time off to play this game. I'm super stoked to play it. I love the series so much, and I love I love everything outside of combat in Resident Evil. In most cases, more than the combat. So like, I know at the end of the day, I'm probably still going to love this game, but it's also kind of like a big picture thing. I don't necessarily think a vertical slice of a game like this is going to, especially when it's not like a vertical slice that demonstrates how different it is. I don't think it's going to. I just didn't think it was going to do me any favors.
The structure of this demo, it's just harder to like get a sense of if the spaces you're playing in are going to be. The thing is, there's a lot of cutscenes and there's a lot of like scripted sequences. Like you go through a door and someone pulls you aside, and then all of a sudden it's like a cutscene, right? And it's like, well, is this just a very story heavy part of this chapter? Eventually, are they going to turn me loose? And I imagine they are, right? You see stuff you can't do yet. You see like, the collectibles that you need to shoot. But like you saw that in Resident Evil 4's village, and that was kind of linear. It's really hard to get a sense of how this is structurally, right? But Resident Evil 7, you spent a lot of time in that mansion early on, right? It
Right.
didn't get linear
And it was
kind of
great.
till after you got out of that. And it was also had like a lot of linear story stuff when you're
No, it certainly did, and the things that I love about 7, I'm sure are going to be great here too. And it's the things that you
It's
don't
just all
like. I'm
about
going to be honest.
7.
I don't know. I've heard there's some interesting, and I don't want y'all to spoil it, obviously, but like I've heard there's some interesting like, I don't know what you like, events or story implications or something in this demo that
I skipped every cutscene because I was worried about I thought I would get to play more of the game by skipping the cutscenes
Well,
because
I
it
mean,
was on a timer,
yeah,
and
see,
the
that's
demo
the
was actually really
bullshit.
short. So
Yeah, it is super. You can beat this demo in less than 5 minutes.
You could beat this demo in less than 5 minutes. Could
I mean,
in the past,
if you just go straight, if you beeline it and skip the cutscenes, you can probably beat it in 2 minutes.
So
Well, I mean, that's all that
Oh,
I could say the same thing about literally any Resident Evil game. If you know what you're doing, you can go
Yeah,
from point A
yeah.
to point B pretty quick. The
Let
whole
me-
point of Resident Evil is you don't know what you're doing and you have to explore. And while you're exploring, you have shit that's scaring you and distracting you and making it a little more difficult, so it's hard.
Yeah.
I think that's I don't
like target
once again, I didn't-
challenges.
Well, yeah, thank you. I didn't play this demo, so I'm not up to speed on it, and I don't know what is in store for us. I will say, 4 is one of my favorite Resident Evil games. I really did enjoy 7. It's not the best, but I enjoyed it. I do see a little bit of 7 in this, but once again, who knows? And like you said, this is extremely vertical slice. We don't know. This could be the smallest area in the game for all we know.
honestly, the thing
I
that
think it's
gets me
just
the most excited about, especially when you talk
Mhm.
about how comparisons to 7, I think about like some of the more really creative stuff they did with 7 that I had never seen before, like the birthday party, like the escape room shit. Like, and I think about that, and like I know this game is going to have some weird shit like that somewhere in it, and that's the stuff I'm looking forward to the most. And then I think about
Sure.
like moments in Resident Evil 4 that were famous, that were like going into that room and meeting that like blind enemy for the first time, and he's just like chasing you around. Like that shit's amazing. And there's
Yeah.
there's a lot of comparisons being drawn, not just because of the village sequence in this, but like also because we know there's a castle, just like Resident Evil 4. There's a demo of that castle coming next week. So
It's
Is that also
coming
gonna be
Friday,
timed?
actually.
Also, I'll say this though:
Yes, and
the
it's gonna be
setting, like a lot of people liked Resident Evil 7 because they thought it was like really scary, especially if you played it in VR, right? But I feel
Right.
like a lot of that had to do with the fact that you were like in a creepy mansion or a creepy house in this creepy little complex. I feel like this setting plus werewolves plus a castle, snowy European village,
maybe a
whatever
little
the
less
fuck this
scary.
is, like, yeah, I don't think it's gonna be, that scary because of that.
Hot dog bet.
know?
Brad's gonna be fucking scared when he plays this game.
Mhm.
I'm already
Uh,
calling
I
it
don't
Can
now.
I
think so.
can I mention two
I'm
specific
calling
points
that.
I have
Brad's gonna
issues
have
with?
at least 2 jump scares.
No, well, sure, jump scares.
and 2, that's it.
I don't think I'm gonna feel the dread to go forward. You know what I mean?
That's, you might be right. But at the same time, like I can say the same thing about Resident Evil 4 to some extent. Like
yeah,
I love
know.
Resident Evil 4,
Sure.
but like
Resident Evil 4 is not scary.
and like I don't think this game necessarily has to be super scary to be good, even in the same way that Resident Evil 7 was good, because I think Resident Evil 7 does a lot of really great things just atmospherically. Even if that wasn't scary, it creates a unique atmosphere and a unique vibe that I think is more important than necessarily how scary it is.
Can I mention two specific points I have gripes about?
Uh-huh.
Okay. First off, okay, specifically to the PS5 version of this game. Like a lot of recent launch titles for the system, it makes use of the adaptive triggers, the restriction it does when you want to do anything with the trigger.
Uh-huh.
The problem is that it's using the same type of restriction for everything you have. Whether you're pulling the trigger on a pistol, whether you're pulling the trigger on a shotgun, or if you're using a
Yeah.
knife. So when
Oh,
you're
really?
swinging a knife, that it doesn't make sense to have that restriction there at all.
Well, have
You're
you
talking
ever
about, like,
stabbed
feedback?
someone with a knife?
I mean, I'm talking
That's
about
a
like
good
just
point.
straight up swinging it in the air. There's
it's
that same
probably
restriction.
dull.
I'm just gonna turn it off. I hate that for guns.
Exactly. And the other thing I don't like about what they're doing here is that the visual language for telling you where you can go isn't that good.
I
If
don't
I
really
would
want
have
it to
known that
tell
I
you where
could
I can
hop
go.
over that little wall to progress to the next area, I could have cut out like 15 minutes of wandering around and just trying desperately to find somewhere to go.
So this is one of those situations where it's like I don't really want it to necessarily tell me. I don't want it to be obvious where I can go, like where I can go to like trigger the next area. I want to like stumble across shit and then have that. I want it to feel. I want there to be more organic in how I traverse between areas. So like that actually sounds like maybe a plus to me. I mean, I can't speak because I'm
Hmm.
not I'm not
I
sure
mean,
exactly.
you're
understand
not, you're
what
not
Chris
watching the
is
demo
talking
that
about.
you're not watching the footage I'm talking about. So there's to get to the last part of the demo, there's a small wall that you have to climb on top of a box and go through in order to get to the other side. There's no real visual language to tell you that you can do that. So you just think that there's an object on a on a box over there when really it's meant to be a prompt for you to climb up and get over. But
I will
there's
say
nothing
though,
to
How
tell
to
you
fix
from a
that problem?
distance that.
I
Fix
will
that
say
problem
this.
with
That
Star's
sounds.
vision.
No, here's the thing. That's the kind of thing also, like, because this is a vertical slice of a game, like there could be something out that happens before this vertical slice occurs in the game that kind of teaches you that you can do stuff like that or how to recognize that thing that's just not in the demo. So it's
I
just
mean,
one of those
shouldn't
things
that
where
have been in the demo then?
it should have been. It probably should have been, but like
Capcom is
these-
so bad at demos.
They
I've
really
said
have become
before.
really bad about demos. Like
Especially-
honestly, I kind of would prefer that they didn't release any demos for these games if they're going to limit people to 30 minutes and only during an 8-hour section of a day. Like,
Yeah.
fuck you
that's
if
the
you live in
stupid
Europe or
fucking part.
Asia. You're not going to play this unless you're awake at 3
Well,
a.m.
Well, no. I mean, I'm sure they had their own specific time slots on the
No, they
PlayStation Store.
didn't. No, they didn't. No, it was locked to the North American time frame of 7 p.m. to 3 p.m. Central Time. Or
What
3
the
a.m.
shit?
Central Time.
PM, 3 a.m. Yeah, okay.
What the shit?
Yeah.
Very
Oh,
weird.
Gamerbet points it out. He's like, get it? 8 hours? Resident Evil 8?
Well, yeah. As soon as you
Ah,
told me it was
whatever.
limited to 8 hours, that's what I thought. But
You know
hold
what
on,
it
so
should
is
have
the next
been?
demo
8
also 3
days.
hours? Yeah, 8 days would have made more sense.
Well, why?
Uh,
Here's a big question: Why? Why why is
I don't know.
Capcom doing it like this?
Because they're dumb.
Doesn't
Hold
make any
on. Is
fucking
the demo
sense.
that comes out on Friday also time restricted?
Probably.
Yes, it is also
Yeah,
30
okay.
minutes.
Because I need to fucking no, I don't care about 30 minutes. I need to know when I need to fucking book some time in my goddamn schedule to play this fucking demo because apparently I have to.
It should be that same time frame, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time to 3 a.m. Central Standard Time.
I'm starting to get bummed about this a little bit because I feel like we're gonna get that castle demo. There's gonna be some bad puzzles, and it's gonna be like, oh, cool.
Bad puzzles.
I don't.
You mean
There's
Resident Evil
not good
that-
puzzles in these fucking games, man.
Yes,
There's
there
just
are,
not.
dude. Puzzles like one of my favorite fucking things in Resident Evil. You piece of shit.
7
I
had some
love
good
puzzles.
I
Seven's
kind of agree
puzzles
with
were
Nick
turning
here.
the fucking thing around to match the shadow, and you did like half a dozen of those.
Like, I see where you're coming from, Nick, but Resident Evil 7 was a lot of go to X place, complete Y objective to get Z item to open door.
Do you remember the shadow?
That is what
puzzles?
video games are. You did, like, you just described.
Chris
video
Davis did
game.
just describe video games.
I just described video games, but I didn't describe a puzzle.
No, dude. Okay,
All right. I mean,
we
hey,
can move on. We're gonna talk
look,
about
I'm
this
still
again
gonna play
probably
this
with next
fucking
demo.
thing. I mean, I like Resident Evil. This could be. There's potential here. I skipped all the cutscenes. I don't. I
Are
don't
you
know
gonna do
what
that
kind
with
of
the
vibe
main
you
game,
got,
or
Chris Davis.
did you just do that because of the demo?
Yeah, I'm
I-
gonna skip all the cutscenes in the main game. Nick.
I would. It would.
I'm a
not surprise
notorious
me.
cutscene skipper.
You kind of are.
You kind of
No, I'm
are, yeah.
not.
If there's any reading to be done, yeah, you're done.
Yeah, but that's not a cut. If it's a
He admits
fucking
it.
note, I'll skim the note.
Let's move
I
on.
don't skip cutscenes.
Maybe I should play this castle demo at least. I don't know.
You don't.
I don't know.
Like, I'm honestly hopeful for this castle demo, but based on what I've played so far, the fact that they're releasing this demo just a couple weeks before the final game comes out, there's not a whole much that they can actually
Wait, what's
fix
what's
and
the game's
fundamentally
release date?
do.
May 7th.
May 7th.
What do they need to fix here?
Why not May 8th?
Well, for one thing, I think they need to fix the enemies being less bullet spongy.
No, I mean, look, it's just because it's like Resident Evil 7. They used Resident Evil 7 as a blueprint to make Resident Evil 8. That's not something for them to
You're
fix.
also-
It's
guys.
just like the other game.
You also you're also talking about combat, having not experienced like probably 15 other weapons that are in the game, fighting different kinds of
Yeah.
enemies that react to
mean,
different weapons.
There was a
differently.
pistol, a shotgun, and a landmine, and they all felt kind of bad. But
I feel like I've experienced at least a third of what's there in the game.
That's a
okay,
gross
that's ridiculous.
generalization.
I mean, if you think about what your armament was in Resident Evil 7,
dude,
it
Resident
makes
Evil 7
sense.
is not a combat centric game at all. Like, not even.
and yet there's a
remotely
lot of
combat-centric-
combat in there.
No, there is not, dude. I
Yes,
did
there
not.
is.
Dude.
Hey, one other quick thing I'd like to say about it: the attaché case. I get why they brought it back because again, people love Resident Evil 4, and this is obviously a throwback in some ways to Resident Evil 4. Here, it doesn't have the same charm. It's all like
The visual language of it doesn't look that good.
Yeah, same thing with the item mixing menu, which seems a little forced. I mean, you're picking up scrap everywhere, which is weird to make. It's
You
just
know what?
not the same
You know what?
vibe as
I'm gonna call it. I'm gonna
RE3.
call it here. Even if Resident Evil Village is like kind of amazing, the fact that it's drawing so many comparisons to Resident Evil 4 so quickly might just be a terrible
Wait, what do
thing.
you mean?
Like, you know what I
What do
mean?
you mean quickly?
Like the fact the game's not even out and everybody's talking about how this is a spiritual successor to Resident Evil 4.
But that's
And
that's
It's been
everyone's
like that
favorite
since
that's
they announced the
I know,
game.
I know, but what I'm saying is like everything that you analyze in this game now, you're immediately comparing it to Resident Evil 4, and I think ultimately that might like they in their minds they may have been like, we're gonna do this thing that's gonna harken back to these wonderful memories of Resident Evil 4, which is great, but at the same time, they're drawing comparisons of their game to something that a lot of people consider to be one of the best games ever made, and
Mm,
if they don't quite hit that mark, it might just do more damage than good.
nah, here's the thing, Nick. Here's my rebut to that. Um,
Hit me.
there's me, there's you, there's Chris Davis, whatever. There's our fucking dumbass podcast. But like everybody on the internet's talking about this tall lady and wants her to step on them. I don't think anybody has to worry about these dumb conversations that we're having here. They're worried about, they turned Mr. X into a kink, and everyone already talked about Mr. X way too fucking much. So trust me, I think this game's gonna be just fine. I think the internet's gonna be just fine.
I mean,
And
when I say things like this and I have conversations, I am specifically. I like to look at these things kind of in our own bubble. Like I think about how we receive a game.
Our
I think about
bubble
how
sucks.
sure our bubble might suck, but it's the bubble I care about. Damn it! So I don't
Sure.
know. I fucking love this bubble. This stupid fucking bubble. Okay.
You know what I
Especially
love?
now that we're all vaccinated.
Well, the good news is for you, Nick,
We
that
can all merge our bubbles.
Mm.
the good news is that we've got a shit ton of more Resident Evil games coming. So
Yes, which I'm sure
Yeah,
will
that's
come
a
up
little
later.
awkward, but
All right.
can we get a Dragon's Dogma in there somewhere, please?
yes, actually, it's on the
Dogma
list. It's on the
He's talking
list.
about the leak.
Yeah, I know.
Which we'll
I
get
know.
there. Where do you want to go from here? Brad, you want to tell us about your game since that one's we haven't talked about that on the podcast yet.
Yeah, I played this game before your eyes. It's an indie
No, you
game.
didn't.
I
Yeah,
knew Nolan was going to say that.
What's
I
it
knew
called?
Before I honestly don't know what it's called. It's got
Almost
eyes
done.
in the title and before something. I heard about this on a podcast, and the mechanic of the game, the hook, sounded interesting. So
Okay.
I wanted to give it a shot because I wanted to play something that wasn't just Monster Hunter, right? People got tired of watching that on my streams. So
You don't say.
I was like, well, let's play this short little 2-hour indie game, right? Because the mechanic is cool. And that mechanic is that it uses your webcam and it detects your blinks.
What?
And this is a very
Okay.
story-driven vignette, like kind of story game where if you blink at certain times, it'll just skip ahead. Like people are having you're playing like a kid, and your parents are characters, and you have a cat, and they'll be having a fucking conversation at the dinner table, and all of a sudden you'll blink and you'll just miss all of it, and it'll just skip ahead, right?
What happens to like people
It-
who have like really dry eyes and they're just like constantly
well, I
blinking?
mean, or if you're crying because it's a very sad game, right?
Oh.
It's
Well, Ben Stein has
kinda
the
knew
product
that
for
this was
you.
going to be that it was mechanically interesting to me, but I kind of knew that the way they were going to use it might end up being a little. Someone in chat called when I finished it, this game is sad bait, and you kind of knew it going in because I mean the whole concept of like it's called Before Your Eyes, like your life
Before
is
your eyes,
passing
blink and
before
it's
your
gone.
eyes, right? Blink and it's gone, that sort of thing. All those dumb fucking sayings in your head as you're playing it. But despite that, it's still like a pretty like well executed like idea, right? Like you like the game skips ahead during conversations that you really want to hear, right? And because it's because you're trying to absorb what's going on in this story, and the game's telling you, basically don't blink, because it pops up this little metronome, right? And during those scenes, if you blink, it's going to skip ahead. So you're trying not to blink. You're trying to absorb, figure out what's going on, listening to these conversations. But you blinked, it's on to the next scene, right? Which is a cool idea.
How painfully cognizant are you of your blinking while playing this?
I was so
how hard are
painfully
you trying
cognizant
not?
that I wasn't even paying attention. I was playing. Malia was next to me, and she was having to tell me what they were saying because I was so focused on not blinking.
You should have had Malia like stand behind you and like hold your fucking eyelids open.
Some Clockwork Orange shit.
But at the same time, the game, like, it wants you to blink. It wants you to miss things, right? Again, that's sort of the point. And sad stuff happens. I found I don't want to get into it, but I found, like, aspects of this game kind of relatable, and it is very sad, right? And it's gonna be sad, and you kind of, especially once you see what's happening, right? Which I can't really talk about because it's a spoiler. This is a very short game. Even when I was recording this, I'm like, this is a lot of footage of this game, even though I only recorded 8 minutes, because it's not a super long game.
Dude, it's like you blink and you miss it. It's over so
fast. Yeah, you blink and you miss it. But with that said, like, it's like a very well, like, executed game. I mean, like, the performances are good and all that stuff, but
it's a really cool mechanically
it is
speaking.
very sad. It's like I wish you could do some, like, of course it's sad. I just wish this mechanic was used to tell something besides a sad story, because again, I can't even get into it because that would be kind of a fucking spoiler. But
it's cool though. It's a really cool idea. Like,
and it's got a very nice look, right? Because it's not just like the visual effect of that it does as you're kind of blinking at things, and stuff kind of fades in and stuff changes. Like, part of it, like, it's not just scenes ahead will skip, but you blink at parts of stuff in your view, like specific parts, and only like part of the image will skip ahead, right? And as you kind of blink at different parts of the environment, sort of the new picture starts to kind of fill in, and time is progressing during all of that, and so it leads to some kind of breathtaking moments and skips and stuff. There's some cliches in there, but
to be expected. But
is the game Toby compatible?
It's still, I'm sorry, is it what?
Is it Toby compatible,
dude?
The eye tracking software.
No, no, okay.
Yeah,
it's a webcam game.
I don't know, but I don't know what your answer
I mean, it works with a webcam. That's what Toby is. Yeah,
sure. It detects your blinks. That's all I know. And you're still looking around with the mouse, so maybe it could do eye tracking, but I don't think this is that sophisticated of it. I mean, this is not a flight simulator. I don't think they care too much about that kind of technology. I mean, I'm serious. This is just like a relatively simple indie game. That's 90 minutes.
Who the fuck is Toby?
I knew this was going to get Nolan's attention, and now Nolan's going to demand more information.
Toby
Who the fuck is
He's
Toby?
the lightning squirrel.
You don't know what I'm talking about?
No,
dude. I don't think anybody here knows what you're talking about.
I will link it in chat.
That's not true. People who are watching this stream right now who enjoy the occasional flight simulator know what he's talking about.
No, I'm saying nobody here knew what he was talking
about. TOBII is what it's called. Toby.
It's like,
all right, I'm clicking this
Toby.
link. There's a number of games out there that actually use this technology. It's an accessibility thing largely.
So look, ultimately I came away from this game being pretty impressed with it, because it's a cool way to tell a story with, like, through like an interesting mechanic. And like, that stuff still kind of gets me, right? I love the movie Boyhood, right? I mean, this stuff is sappy. I know it's sappy, but it's still, like, really effective for me.
There's nothing wrong with
your mileage,
a good
your
sappy
mileage
story.
may vary, right? But yeah, uh, stuff
Cool.
happens, sad stuff happens. You might
At
want
the
to
very least, it's got a cute kitty
check
cat
some
in it.
content
Yeah, it's cute.
warnings before playing this game if certain subject matters. Again, I can't even really say it, but just do your due diligence before you try this game.
Gotcha.
Cool.
All right. Cool. All right. Nolan, did you finish It Takes Two?
Let me tell you, Nick, I did not.
Oh.
Brad, have you
Oh.
finished?
No, it's too
Okay.
hard.
Dude, yeah, no. So I've definitely played more. Bernadette and I have played quite a bit. Brad, I'm sure you're probably farther than me. How many pages
I have
you
not. I have not
gotten?
been playing in the past handful of days.
Oh, how many page fragments have you collected? If you know what
I
I'm
don't
talking
actually
about.
know.
Okay.
So have you done the scene with the elephant?
Yeah, I'm past that.
Okay, so we're like not too far past that.
Oh, okay, well then I might be a little bit past you then.
By the way,
so
that
anyway,
scene
like,
with the elephant was amazing.
dude, it was fucking horrible, Brad. Dude, fuck you. I
It
knew what was gonna
amazing.
happen. Dude, like one of the worst fucking things in the
Moment
world. Like,
of the year.
yes, I will agree with
I
you
don't know who
there.
to take. I don't know who to take seriously right now. Who should I be listening to?
What did the elephant
Both.
do?
Well, I mean, it's not
nothing.
we don't have to get into the details
Yes,
of the
let's not.
scene, but let's just say, you're playing as these two parents of this girl, right? Even though
Right.
you're in doll form, but somehow you get it in your head that her
Well, you
tears are
get
what's
it.
going to turn you
Well,
back into
well,
a
no, you get
into
it
a
in your
human.
head because the
I feel like y'all are just gonna spoil
binoculars
this.
telescope. No, we're not. Saw her cry on the dolls, and then the parents
Yeah.
got turned into the dolls, and so they're like, "Oh, well, clearly to break this spell, we just need to get her to cry on us again."
So yeah,
And
the objective
her
is to
parents
try
are
to get their
trying
daughter
to make their daughter cry.
and it's
Oh.
horrible what they
Which
do.
brings up one of the antagonists technically in the game who's trying to stop you because he's like, I don't want you to make her cry because that's a dick thing to do. And that's what I was kind of bringing up in Discord the other day, the whole like, are we the baddies here? Because like, holy shit, we're like trying to fucking make our daughter cry so we can get a divorce. Like
after that scene there is no question.
Yeah,
but it was so funny,
dude. Yeah, so
Oh,
I
man.
don't want to get into like spoilers or anything, but yes, I will agree with Brad that is definitely one of the moments of the year that is honestly, I don't want to say it's worth playing this game, but it's pretty fucking good.
Well, I'm gonna be
I was
honest. Like
crying.
I'm
I
about
was
like I'm about
crying.
like 30% more interested in playing this game. Like I might move this priority wise up my list just so I can find out what the fuck happens with the elephant.
You would
Yeah.
especially like it, Nick. Let's just say
What the
Oh
hell
yeah,
is that?
Nick definitely would.
Somebody explain
because
this.
you're a sick fuck.
But I will say that I am still. Yeah, my assumption is I honestly think me and Bernadette are probably only like halfway done with this game.
Yeah, it's supposed to be long.
And still, I am dumbfounded how each new area just completely changes how you play this game. It is insane how coming from a way out to this, like holy shit, it is such a drastic difference.
Yeah.
At like fucking like Brad mentioned the Diablo section of the game. There's like the part I'm in. I don't know if you got into the snow globe, Brad.
I think we just got there.
Okay, there's like it's just like there are so many different abilities and features in this game that kind of change how it works.
Mhm.
It's one of these games where it's just like they wrote down like a fuck ton of mechanics first, and they were like, all right, how can we make these mechanics work within this concept? And then they just did them all.
And you know what?
There's
I have not.
too.
None of them have disappointed me so far. It's like so far, there's especially in a game of that style where it's like, oh, you do 87 different things. It's like, well, I mean, like 30 of them were good. So far in this, all of them have been fucking solid.
And that's why I really want to play this more than anything.
I've been very impressed with that. And secondly, every single time the two main characters, Cody and May, have completely different abilities that have to be used in conjunction. That's why it's called It Takes Two. But like it almost to an extent makes me want to fucking play it again as the other character. just because of how often you were doing completely different things from each other.
Cool
You know, there
mechanics that the other person was doing.
yeah, like there's a section, I was May, and my ability was that I could essentially on certain surfaces, I just clung to them. So like gravity would essentially get flipped around for me. And Bernadette is Cody, she could change her size. So she can go regular size, extremely tiny like an ant, or giant
She's
like a
like
fucking like
Ant-Man.
yeah, exactly. The same concept. But so yeah, she's completely doing other things to help solve this puzzle while I'm over here like inverting gravity and doing other things, and she's changing size to affect puzzles. There's like a section of you have to use this like almost like a seesaw type thing, but then she becomes big, so obviously I go flying higher because she's big now. And it's just like I'm just like I said, the fucking kind of the book that I don't want to get too much into, the stereotype book, is still annoying. But everything else has really been fantastic.
Awesome.
I will say it's not just that like this seems like a very like well-made production and that there's a lot of variety that's constantly changing, but there's a lot of like stuff in a lot of these environments that you could just fuck around doing. They put a lot of stuff in here just to like screw around with, like cool,
Yeah.
like they really didn't need to do. Like you could spend a lot of time
Oh
in these
yeah.
environments just having fun, fucking around with unique mechanics that aren't even part of the main thrust of like your mechanics and getting through
When
the game.
when you get when you're at the like the there's like a village, like a snow village, Brad. When you
Mhm.
get there, holy shit! It is, first off, it's huge. There are dozens and dozens of things for you to do. Like you said, Brad, have nothing to do with progressing the
See,
game.
I
It's
wish
just
Nolan was
shit you
talking
can
about Resident Evil
explore.
Village right now. I really
Um,
Honestly, I
there's
found
just
it
like
overwhelming. Like that big environment before you get to the elephant, and there's just like a
Mhm.
fuck ton of shit to do. It's like, wow.
Oh yeah, this is not. This is not. I don't want to say it's not a game that you can definitely beeline it, but for me, it's almost like I want to just spend time in each area, kind of interacting with the environment. And
I
I'll agree with Bernadette in chat real quick. That yeah, the story I'm still not sold on it. It's one of those things where I'm hoping
Yeah, I
it's
need to
like
finish.
The Last of Us 2, in that at the beginning of that
Oh
game,
Jesus.
I knew exactly. I knew what they
Oh,
were trying
damn.
to do. And I said, this isn't going to work. I know what you're trying to do. At the end of the day, I'm not going to like where this goes. But they sold me on it. I was happy with the end of it. So far, this is making me think they're going to be like, oh, because we worked together, we found a new love and we're not getting a divorce and blah, blah, blah. And if that's the way it's going, it has nowhere near sold me on that being a
Gotcha.
legitimate thing. Like, I still think at the end of this game, the parents should get divorced and then punish
Yeah.
their daughter for putting them through this.
The whole story, yeah, depends on how it wraps up for sure.
I have a quick question for you, Noah. I don't know if you can answer this necessarily, but have you tried playing this at all via like remote play, like on your PS5?
Yeah, we have.
Oh,
We've actually
awesome.
played it maybe at least a third, if not close to half. The only disadvantage of doing it via PS4 via the PS5's remote play functionality is you just don't get the DualSense stuff.
Gotcha.
So you know
Yeah.
less. I don't know if there's any rumble.
Yeah.
But yeah, less of like the haptic feedback and stuff like that.
I
That's
feel
really
like
only it.
I'm gonna try and get Robin to play this on the projector because I feel like it'd be a great game to just kind of lounge back and
I
get
will
into.
say, I think this game is more fun, like not playing with a pro gamer. I feel like if like me and Nolan played together, it wouldn't be the same sort of experience,
Potentially.
right? We would just like because it's not like this stuff is hard, but like it can be a challenging playing with Malia because she's not. I mean, honestly, it expects a lot of the
She's-
player in a lot of these
Oh
sequences.
yeah, it definitely does.
And kind of working together
There's
to get through that stuff has been pretty satisfying.
I will say that there were definitely some segments that even me, an MLG pro, had trouble with a couple of things, and so there were definitely times, or is it, yeah, you kind of need to figure out what to do first off because it's a puzzle game first and foremost, so you don't know what's going on, so you'll die. But
Right.
then definitely like things can surprise you and shock you, and you can die. Brad, if you remember the segment with all of like the animal faces,
Oh God, that was hard.
dude, that was tough for even me.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's like there are definitely challenges in this game. But to Brad's point, I could see it being more fun with someone who's not like an expert, just because it kind of forces you to slow down a little bit and maybe kind of. I want to say you do need to
I
be
mean,
careful with.
it becomes a game about like collaboration and communication, and
Yeah. Oh no,
you know,
communication is a huge, and that's something that I I have to constantly remind myself, because anything in this game to me is obvious. You know, you're a gamer. I've seen this before. I know what's going to happen. Blah blah blah. This is a segment. You're going to do this. But Bernadette, who does not play as many games as I do, doesn't. And so I have to explain it to her, and I have to constantly remind myself, like try not to be a dick when you're explaining it. You know, like try not to be condescending. Try to uh be like, hey, have you tried, like I don't want to like I
tell you
don't
how
want to
to do it.
tell her what to do. Yes, exactly. I don't
Yeah.
want to tell her how to do it. I want to try to get her to, oh, if you think about it this way. But then sometimes I understand she gets mad at me when I do that. She's like, just tell me what to do. But I want to like, and I don't know, it's just kind of like my thing of like, I want her to be a better gamer so we can play more games together, because she's not a bad gamer. It's just more about like, I want to be like, hey, have you tried, think about it this way, kind of type deal.
It's a
Yeah.
learning
and she
experience.
Yeah.
and there are a lot of mini games in this game, which if you have a pro gamer and a not pro gamer, it definitely
You
tends to
just
lean
what?
one
Yeah,
way.
I have no mercy too. I whip the shit out of Malia in all of those.
Jesus Christ.
She the most mad at me she gets when she plays, and she often gets mad, is because she'll be struggling with something or whatever. I'm like, just no, just press R1. It's actually they made it to be very forgiving. Like,
Mhm.
and she hates that I keep calling things forgiving, even though, like magnetizing to like a rail or something, like the
Yeah,
window for like latching on is like very wide. That's what I'm trying to say.
yeah.
Like, oh, it's forgiving. And I get how that could be really fucking insulting, I guess, when somebody's struggling with it, right?
Yeah.
So, but it's been fun,
No, yeah, no.
It-
Honestly, like in the however many hours of this game we've played, I don't think we've ever gotten like mad at each other. There've definitely been a few kind of like frustrating moments, but few and far
Mhm.
between. I think they've done a pretty good job.
Yeah.
But
What
once
if like as the
again,
game goes on, like they try and get like harsher and harsher to the point where it's like literally the design doc was like, how do we drive a wedge between two people? Like it doesn't matter what the relationship is. We just got to design every mechanic around trying to drive a wedge between whoever's playing this together.
yeah,
That would
I
be
got
fucked up.
I gotta say, maybe just to kind of like, uh, in the maybe we need to move on, but
yeah, we do.
I'm really surprised. I was really surprised by this game, and I really like Brothers, but that was sort of like a almost like a one trick pony, and it's not like mechanically that game was all that you know amazing or anything, right? And A Way Out again had some cool ideas, but really it was more of just it was not very long, and there was some neat ideas in here. But I'm really impressed by like the breadth and the quality of the stuff in this game. Like this is a really cool game, and I feel like art. I mean, I think when you look at the art style and the visuals, you're like, well, maybe this is like an indie game, right? But the production here, seems like just
So,
they could sell this for $60
oh no,
in
like I am
a
very impressed
retail store,
with
right?
what $40 has gotten me. Like I said,
Yeah.
the three major aspects I have in this game: the visual style, and the mechanics, the actual technical mechanics of the game are fantastic. Honestly, so far the weakest part has been the overarching story. Like
Yeah.
I said, like Brad said, like some of the subplots and some of the side conversations that Cody may have are good, but so far just the overall story I'm not sold on yet. But everything else has been like super good.
All right. Well,
Hmm.
let us know what you think when it's all said and done. I might try and get Robin to play this with me soon. Her mom's in town, so I'm not sure if we're gonna be able to do that while she's here. But
Play
or
it with
maybe
her
that'll make
mom.
it more maybe that'll make it more interesting. Who knows? But before we go to break, I want to talk real quick about some Monster Hunter. Also, real quick update. I took a week off. I finished Lust from Beyond. I finished that fucking game. That game gets
That
weird.
literal fucking game.
Yeah, there's some guys, there's some ooh.
Dicks.
Uh you know, like that's just
Plenty.
barely scratching the surface of some of the stuff in that game.
Barely
Yeah,
scratching the rim of the butthole.
you're getting closer. But I finished it. Whatever. It's all right. But I played a fuck ton of The Last of Us Part 2. But I've played more than anything. I played a shit ton of Monster Hunter Rise, and I'm approaching tier 7, I think, or ranks. What do we call that? Is it
HR7, Hunter
rank.
rank 7.
HR7? Yes,
Roll that
thank you.
beautiful footage because I got some things to tell you real quick.
It's
Are
rolling.
you just gonna watch my footage and critique it? Like, should I just stop
No,
talking?
I already
Yes.
kind of peeked at it when I was uploading footage.
Oh, god damn you!
I just want to say a couple things because they're very important. Insect Glaive, which you've been using and you love, I know, is a very like stamina hungry weapon.
Yep. Yes, it is.
Most weapons are actually not stamina hungry. I mean, you got the dual blades, you got the bow, and then you got the glaive, right?
Right.
You played through most of this hunt with your bar, like stamina bar, like at half. You do understand you're supposed to eat meat to like fill that up, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
But like at the very
Because
beginning,
He
I
chooses not to.
when the quest starts, I eat the meat and it doesn't go up at all, which I thought was
But
strange.
as you use your
goes down as
stamina, the total goes
Your
down.
your available maximum decreases
know.
the more you use your stamina. So
Right,
if you
right,
eat
right.
meat
And-
again, then that maximum you get it
And
back.
I do eat meat when I feel like it's getting to the point where I can't keep my stamina high enough to do consistent
Okay.
attacks. Like, I mean, I've been rolling with this weapon
I
now
will say
for
it's
like.
quite important for the glaive. So
No,
that's
you're
why I'm
right.
like,
You're absolutely right. And I'm not claiming to be some Monster Hunter expert here. I've been rolling with the same weapon, to be honest, for the last 3 HR Hunter ranks or whatever you fuck we call them. So I've been doing a fuck ton of hunts with the insect glaive, with the same insect glaive, and I'm really enjoying it. And honestly, I don't know if I'm
which
gonna
is the
end
other
up
thing I want to bring up real quick. Is I know you're saying you like this puke glaive, which is fine.
because it
but
inflicts poison.
Yeah, it does inflict poison, which is true, which is a good status element. But the thing is, the problem with you're bouncing off of Nargacuga's wings a lot, and that's specifically because it's green sharpness. Like
This bitch is
the,
literally about to sit here and critique
no,
like the
it's just
specific fight
those
that
are
I'm in this
literally
footage.
two things I wanted to bring up just in case if you play more, right?
Just two.
The advantage
Build-
of
Your build is lacking. It lacks
here's-
optimization.
I'm just explaining the reason
here's
you're
the
bouncing
thing.
off.
I know. Here's the thing, and this is one thing I want to be very clear about, because going into this, I knew this was going to happen, and I knew you were going to have a problem with it specifically. When I play games, I don't think about builds. I don't like being in menus. I don't like spending time.
No.
Like, I don't like
Well, this isn't a
micromanaging.
game, Nick. This is the hunt.
No, I was literally just trying to give you two pieces of advice.
Sure,
and
and I've
like
given me a lot of
literally
advice, and I'm
the
taking it.
bouncing off is based on your sharpness.
Right.
And that's why like blue sharpness is better than green sharpness, because
But like, I didn't even know colored sharpness was a thing, and I kind of didn't really care to know. I don't want to go any. I feel like I don't want to go any deeper than I'm already in, because I'm already overwhelmed.
That's what
But
he
I
said.
found this nice like comfort zone in this game now. Like I am officially comfortable in this game, and I'm having a great time, and I'm playing it consistently, which I never thought I would get to with a Monster Hunter game. So I guess I'm comfortable. And I don't know if I feel like I'm gambling anytime I add additional layers of complexity to it. Like, I don't want to turn myself, especially when I'm like plowing towards the end at this point. For me, the end for me, which for me, my trajectory in this game is like Hunter rank 7, fight that Elder Dragon, and
final boss.
then
Sure.
and then I'm gonna move on.
Good. I mean, which is fine. I mean, I expect, a lot of players kind of play it that way, right? I just hope
Right.
that, again, at the very least, this big update at the end of the month.
I will come back to this when there's big updates, for sure.
This is a good game to come back to, because it's very well supported, and all of a sudden, there'll be Devil May Cry outfits and Horizon Zero Dawn outfits, just like World, right? Except probably other crossovers, different crossovers, Nintendo crossovers, cool weapons and new monsters. I mean, it's a good game to come back to.
Right.
So
yeah, and I definitely plan to. I did want to mention specifically, like I said at the beginning of the show, we did our first co-op night. I want to do more of those, whether they're on the feed or off the feed. I don't really care, especially as I'm getting Nolan, Crispy. Are y'all what? Have y'all still been playing? What rank are y'all at right now? Are y'all in 6 or?
I think I might be 6. I'm not sure.
I just went up one. So
I think that puts you
whatever
at
I was at.
5. You were at 4, so I think you're at 5 now. But I would like to do more, especially like when I get to tier 7, because the fights are getting pretty tough for me just going in solo. For the first time ever yesterday, I died and failed a hunt, and I was like, and while I got some stuff out of it, man, I was like, I feel like I just wasted the last 30 minutes of my life. Which,
Fucking
may not be the
bummer,
right
isn't
way
it?
to look at it.
But you learned how to not, die to a Zenogre or whoever it was, right?
Oh, it was a
No,
Barrioth.
sometimes you don't.
Oh,
Sometimes it's
Barrioth
just
is brutal.
sometimes it's just a big fucking bummer, man, and you just gotta accept that you're not very good. I do that every time. Every
mean,
time I go on a hunt now.
I would never claim to be very good at this game, but I'm at the point where I feel like I'm skilled enough that I'm like, I feel good about it. I feel good about where I am. And if you told me last year that I would be sinking 50 plus hours into a Monster Hunter game, I would have been like, no fucking way. But here I am. And
Yeah.
now,
Especially when on the Switch. That's what I find surprising. Like I could have seen you getting into, World on a PS5, and
I
you
beat
claim you're going to do that, right? But
yeah, I ordered Iceborne, like the physical edition with
all
Monster
right,
Hunter World
man.
Iceborne. I'm
Dude,
ready, man.
hey,
I'm going
hey,
in.
if y'all get into, I mean, I know Crispy's been playing Iceborne. I've been getting the Iceborne itch because there's a lot of content that I never did because I kind of stopped playing after a certain point. So if you get up to that point, hey, I'll be
I
happy to
intend
join you.
to.
But
I intend to.
luckily with us doing co-op nights, in a month or two, there'll be a whole bunch of new content maybe that you haven't tried yet. So we could
I just like
do
I like
that on
I
a
like
co-op night.
I like fighting new monsters too. So anytime they add a new monster, I'll be all over that.
You got some
I
you
do
got
want to
some
point out.
very iconic ones coming up in HR7, so it
Awesome.
should be
Also,
I'm very excited. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, don't forget that there's still a lot of more Monster Hunter coming this year. I mean, Rise is coming to PC later this fall, and Stories 2 is supposed to come out this summer.
I officially am interested in playing Stories too.
yeah, it
At
doesn't.
this point, I mean, I'm just. Why is Crispy laughing at that?
I don't
What
know.
monster are you gonna pick, Nick?
I don't know. It's just for like
Stories
I'm into
2
Monster Hunter
does
now.
look good. You can ride
I-
around on a Mizitsune.
Like
sounds cool.
this is beginning to feel like you went through all of this Monster Hunter Rise as some sort of like performative buy-in for Monster Hunter Stories too. Like you couldn't just start with like the offshoot kids game and people not think
I
you're
wanna play
fucking
the
crazy.
Pokemon one.
So you got to play like a real Monster Hunter for a little bit and then be like, "Oh, I love this franchise. Oh, there's a Stories 2 coming out. I'll play that."
There's far less menus in the Stories series. Nick.
I mean, I just thought that one trailer I saw for it looked pretty cool.
It does look.
It
nice.
looks cute.
Yes, it does look cute. But I do want to give a shout out to for a Switch game especially. I was shocked at how easy it is to go to jump in and play with friends. I'm always very intimidated by the prospect of trying to do online multiplayer on a Switch because Nintendo has always historically had awful online services. But man, once we got over that initial like little hump of just trying to figure out how the lobbies and stuff worked, it's so quick. It's like it's to the point where I could be like, I feel like I could just be like, hey, Nolan, Crispy, do y'all want to jump in and play a game because it's like super easy. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Can I ask something?
I beat that Barrioth today at work on my lunch break with Joy-Cons, bitch. I just want to point that out too.
He's a
playing anything
master
with
hunter.
Joy-Cons.
I am a master hunter with my Joy-Cons. Sorry,
He's
go
ready
ahead.
for the G rank.
Is that a
Break
thing?
his feet, he'll start tripping all over the place.
Granted, I haven't touched any of these games. Why is your stamina bar and health bar not filling all the way?
We already explained that,
That's
Chris
the whole
Davis.
thing. We explained. It's a whole thing.
As you fight, it gradually decreases. So you have to consume items to replenish it to bring it back up to its full.
Oh no,
So,
I think he's actually talking about the white space beyond the bars.
perma
Yeah,
buffers.
Yeah, because you have
Mhm.
potential to go into permabuff territory.
which
Yeah.
I'm
To
going to
get
be honest,
even
Chris
more
Davis,
health.
Okay.
I don't fully understand that. This is one of those things where it's like
You pick up colorful flies in the environment that
Or
boost
fish.
your stats on the way to a hunt between during the
Some type of
fight.
different
That
Should
sort
we
of
call
thing.
those perma buffs? Because are they permanent?
Mhm.
Or are they just permanent for that fight?
For
They're
the hunt.
permanent for the hunt.
Why not just have
It's
it
a
go to your
thing.
standard, maximum health and maximum stamina, and then just
Because there's a
increase
lot
the
of
size
stuff
of the
that can-
bar once you pick up the item? That gives
Because
you
there's
this
a lot
buff.
of different things that affect your health differently, and it's
Yeah.
nice to know that information of like
And depending
how
on
much
which
room you have to
weapon,
grow.
depending on which of the certain type of accessory you have equipped, those maximums are different, and
Hey,
the amount
you
you
know
get
what?
for each.
You know what? No. We're entertaining a madman. Like,
Yeah, we
no,
are.
like you don't get
Shut
to
up.
you don't get to try to poke holes in the design of Monster Hunter when you absolutely refuse to play a fucking minute of it, even though we all know that you would fucking lose yourself in this game, Chris Davis. It's amazing, and we
Kaiju
just
level
want what's
motherfucker.
best for you.
Yeah, you love kaiju. What the fuck is wrong
I
with you? Why
do
are you
love
not playing
kaiju.
Monster Hunter?
Okay, I just
Yeah.
This is a
Zorn
game
Macro
about
if
fighting
I'm
people.
going to
Grab a
okay,
sword and go kill some.
okay, I'm going to ask this question and give me the straight answer. Okay,
Who are you asking? You have to ask one person. because
everybody here, because they've all played Monster Hunter games. Okay. Since I
my
don't have my Switch hooked up and I don't do play a game on my Switch right now, what Monster
Like
Hunter
that-
game would be good for me to start with on another system that's not Switch?
Monster Hunter Rise.
Play World and Iceborne on your
World.
PS5. It's
Yeah,
beautiful.
World.
It's
Okay.
It's also free.
Also, you having a Switch that you don't want to hook up isn't a real problem. That's like just a weird stipulation you made up.
That's like my phone's low on battery, but I don't want to plug it in.
Yeah.
So what apps can I use that won't drain my battery?
The difference there is that my Switch is in a box in the back of my closet, and I would have to go through the whole process of hooking it
Your
up.
gigantic walk-in closet in your big mansion, Chris Davis, you just can't find things in it because it's so big. I've got so much storage space.
All right, we need to take a break.
Jesus
When we come
Christ.
back-
I just asked an innocent question.
If
You
Nick
knew this was going to
starts
happen,
World,
Chris Davis.
No, but for
if
real,
Nick
play
starts World at some point this year, you should play with him.
play World with us. It's great.
I'm
And you
getting
will
my
enjoy
copy
it,
of
and it's a
World.
PlayStation / Xbox game. But I don't know if you can cross play.
No, you
It's
can't
on PC,
cross-play.
right?
I don't think
Yeah,
it
I don't
can
think you
on
can.
PlayStation.
You gotta play on PlayStation.
It is on PC, yes,
Okay.
but it's also free PS on PlayStation. Chris
I've heard the
Davis.
PC port's
PlayStation
not
Classic thing, whatever.
so good though.
So I
I
kind
don't
of
know.
prefer to play on PC, but if it's on if it's
PS4,
free on
baby.
console, maybe.
All right,
I think
We're
you're
gonna
doing
play-
yourself a favor by playing on PS4.
we are going to take a quick break. When we come back, we've got some questions from our supporters on Patreon and Twitch, which are going to bring up some big news topics for us to discuss, including the big stuff from Sony, the Days Gone 2 news, some weird Last of Us rumors, all kinds of stuff. So if you're watching us live or listening at home, don't go anywhere. We'll be back after this short break. Hey guys, welcome back to the show. We have a lot to cover in this segment, but of course, I want to start by reading feedback from our last episode. If there's anything that we talk about on this podcast and you would like, oh my God, Brad, I'm gonna need you to calm down. I'm gonna need you to bring it down. He's over here looking.
There's a class
look-
called a
Oh.
Shield Sage.
Someone in chat got Brad
Shield.
really into Dragon's Dogma online shit that he'll never be able to experience, and now he's frothing at the mouth.
I
on
heard the
on
game's
stream.
that wasn't that good though. So
Calm down, Brad. Okay, I want to start with feedback. If you're listening to this at home and we say something or you have a conversation that you would like to contribute to, go to 4playernetwork.com, find the post for this episode, leave us a comment. We'll read it and respond to it on the next episode. So from last week, our first comment comes from the Drunken Merchant. And he says, because we talked about E3 a bit last week or on the last show, I have a good but probably flawed solution to the whole E3 convention center, but COVID, though, situation. I'd propose having smaller group digital events around the US as opposed to one giant convention in one place. If you have ever seen the New York City Smash Ultimate reaction videos on YouTube, the energy generated from those are nuts. Maybe they could strike a deal with Best Buy or GameStop, or have various places host the events, like bars hosting UFC pay-per-views. They could sell tickets to these events and have merchandise/games to sell there as well. This is all a huge fantasy of mine, but it'll probably never happen. But I've also never seen anybody really bring it up before. By the way, he does post a link to those Smash reactions. If you're interested, they're in the comments. Check it out. But one thing I will point out about that, well, I think it's a good idea. The problem, I think, being that E3 has, at least historically speaking, been not a consumer convention. It's been an industry convention. So the point of it is not necessarily to bring people, like the public, in to play games necessarily. It's been about vendors and forging relationships with publishers and developers and bringing everybody in the industry together. So
Yeah, like the hours of E3 go well beyond the convention floor hours. Like there are deals being made for over a week during that time.
It was literally referred to as an industry event.
Yeah, I mean,
that's
the thing
point
is
of it.
that is kind of shifting, obviously, especially they're taking the first step this year of renaming it Electronic Entertainment Experience and making it more of a consumer side thing. So maybe that's starting to change. So, this might be a very possible thing, but at its core, it's always got to still be able to facilitate bringing people in the industry together to forge deals. Like a lot of these big games that we see, or like especially indie games, find publishers and forge important business relationships at E3. So like, a game that you're obsessed with this year may only have been made possible by like bringing, the right people together at E3 like 2 or 3 years ago. That has kind of been why E3 exists. So, but like I said, it could be changing, or they could be trying to make it more of a consumer thing, especially given what COVID is doing to the world at the moment. So I think it's not a bad idea. Like you've certainly seen them do things like this. They could split it and make part of it kind of a consumer centric event, and like that would be a great solution for that side of it. But I don't know if that necessarily solves the other side of the equation.
If they took like the PAX model and had it to where there was dedicated PR and industry access hours, and then there was consumer hours, I think that'd be better.
But like, still, it begs the question of kind of like, how does that fit in with what he's talking about, which was having like public places all over the country hosting consumer centric events. But
I mean, if you dive into it, there's problems there. Like, do you have uniform coverage of all of the products you want to show off at every event, or do you have it one every time?
That's way too expensive.
Yeah. Logistically speaking, when it comes to actually like demoing products at places like that would get, I think, that would balloon up too fast. But like creating like hype events for like, instead of like press conferences, having like hosted like events at bars and stuff where you can like basically like group watching parties to like watch these events or whatever, and like have screen these trailers and stuff. I don't know, there could be all kinds of things like that, but as soon as you start trying to introduce actual products across the country at different places, it gets out of hand. But making a digital event is probably part of their strategy for dealing with that kind of thing.
Yeah, and the flip side of that is also that if you have separate products at different locations, then you're gating off the maximum potential for showing off your product. Because not everybody's going to go to every event. So
nobody's going to go to every event. That's the whole point. Our next comment comes from Mr. Scorpion. He writes, I think Chris Davis's idea for a statement was well executed. Hats off to you, sir. Small suggestion, a midway point to cover some talking points could help the discussion. Having the script would help you keep your place and thoughts in line, despite the small break. Also appreciated the conversation on E3. Interested to see where it goes in the future, despite my only real current interest in it being the announcements, though I do hope to go one day. I think a lot of people's sole interest in E3 has to do with the announcements. But I'm interested to see what happens to E3 this year with it going digital, because especially there's probably going to be a lot of stuff that's going to be playable via demos and stuff. But we'll see how that goes. But there you go. You got some positive feedback for your Days Gone statement, Chris Davis.
Unlike I didn't watch any of the footage while I was reading off my statement last or 2 weeks ago, and I didn't realize you had those fucking freakouts and just walked off camera while I was talking about it.
You didn't see me doing that?
No,
No.
I was reading.
That's funny. Well, I did. And our last comment tonight.
What's a freak out?
I called the game Red Undead Redemption, and Nick just fucking lost his shit and left the camera scene.
He told us the whole.
I thought a freak out was like a in lore thing because they're called freakers.
No. I was just having. He told us to save our comments for the end. So he's saying things, and I was just, I walked off camera. Our last comment comes from Slopdog. He writes, Ed making spreadsheets for games is very relatable. I occasionally do the same thing, the last time being when I was playing Yakuza Kiwami 2, trying to make the most badass team of hostesses for the Cabaret Club side story. But instead of a spreadsheet, I just wrote the names of my top hostesses on an envelope, wrote down their earnings to find the best ones, and marking out the ones that didn't make the cut.
You sound like a pimp or something. Don't sound like Ed at all.
That sounds a lot more like what a normal person would do instead of making entire spreadsheets.
No, dude, spreadsheets are the bomb diggity. He goes on to say, I like Chris Davis's idea for consolidated impressions. Would be cool if they were posted here on the 4PP site as well. Maybe you can find a way to post those, Chris Davis, since you went through the trouble of writing them out.
I saved the text.
He said, seconding Mr. Scorpion's suggestion on having a midway point, though, and giving everyone else a copy of the impressions to help along with the discussions. You can give us, handouts. Also, hate to say it, but I'm one of those people who the last movie that they saw in theaters was Cats.
My condolences.
But it was all worth it for Shimbleshanks, the railway cat.
The last movie I saw in theaters was Sonic the Hedgehog.
I mean, I feel like that's almost as bad. Although, I heard that was actually pretty decent, but, it's still, one of those things where it's like...
Yeah, Nick, you'd really like it.
Why do you say it like that, Crispy?
Say it like what?
I feel attacked.
That was fine.
But... anyways, guys, again, if there's anything you want to say, if you want to chime in on any of these conversations we're having tonight, leave us a comment at 4playernetwork.com on the post for this episode, and we'll get to it next week. But now, I'm going to let Nolan lead us through some questions from our supporters on patreon.com and our subscribers on Twitch. Again, we've been trying to encourage you guys to not only submit questions, but frame your questions around big news topics. That way we can... see what y'all want to hear about the most instead of us trying to arbitrarily kind of pick what we think y'all want to hear about. So with that in mind, we have some big news topics to cover.
Yeah.
And I'll let Nolan take over.
All right. First question this week from Henry from Birmingham, Alabama.
Henry.
Jason Schreier recently released an article detailing the current state of PlayStation. The article dives into several things: PlayStation's focus on bigger blockbuster titles over smaller ones, an Uncharted 1 remake that was scrapped in favor of a Last of Us 1 remake, and their decision to not move forward with the production of Days Gone 2. What do you think about Sony's current approach to the games they're choosing to produce? Is the Last of Us 1 remake needed? Why was Days Gone 2 passed on when the first game was a financial success? And will Nick ever recover?
So this was kind of obviously a big news topic that happened in the past 2 weeks, and also a multifaceted news topic that's all kind of related. His first part of that question obviously was, what do we think about Sony's approach to the games they're actually choosing to make right now? Which a lot of their focus has always been on pumping a ton of money into these big AAA cinematic experiences. Go ahead, Brad.
You say that, but I feel like Sony's also been known for kind of spending a lot of money on some of the artsier stuff that they know is not going to sell well. But with the recent news that they shut down, Sony they shut down Japan's studio, which is
Mhm.
responsible for some of that stuff, like Last Guardian and whatnot.
Gravity Rush.
Like it's a sign that maybe they're not caring about that level of stuff anymore.
I think people say that specifically just because if you look at the rate at which they release games like God of War, Death Stranding, Spider-Man, Ghost of Tsushima, like those types of games, the rate at which they release them compared to say like Microsoft is like, for every one game that Microsoft does, which is usually a Gears of War or a Halo title, Sony releases like 4. And that's just kind of like they just churn them out and they spend a lot more money on them. And they take a lot bigger risks with new IP in the AAA space than someone like Microsoft does, or even Nintendo, to be totally honest. So I think that's where that comes from. But that's not to say they don't spend money on and take risks on like smaller stuff, on indie stuff.
I mean, I would agree with you to a point. What I would say is that as far as taking risks, like the games you're talking about are sequels to existing franchises, like The Last of Us
Sure.
Part 2, like the new God of War.
I know, but like
So-
I also name dropped things like Death Stranding and Spider-Man, which I know Spider-Man is not is established IP, but
Ghost of
that is
Tsushima, Days
Ghost of-
Gone.
Yeah.
yeah, those are all new IPs. Those are all brand new things, and they're all AAA games.
Yeah, they absolutely are. But what I say to that is that those games began development 5 or 6 years ago. In
Right,
Ghost of
because
Tsushima's
Sony
case was like
spent a
10
fuck-
years ago.
Because
But
Sony decided to spend a fuck ton of money on
but
them.
we're talking about the
Also-
current development scene at Sony, which is The Last
Do
of Us
we-
Part 3, The Last of Us Remake, things like that.
Do we really feel like that from a business standpoint? Any of those games you're mentioning though are like huge risks.
No, I mean, well, I certainly think things like
Because I don't care what you say about Death Stranding. It could have been a game about petting puppies and riding ponies, but it was Kojima's next
Kojima.
game.
Right, right.
It doesn't matter what it was.
Yeah.
no, you're right.
Like,
I think most of them are not like huge risks, but I do think about things like Until Dawn. I think qualifies as one of these. Like that was a big Sony first party game that they spent a lot of money on. That was very unusual. Days Gone was a big risk, and it was a risk that paid off, which will tie into a question, the other part of this question in a second.
But I feel like
I don't.
what they're
don't
getting
agree
at is
with-
that they're transitioning to maybe less risk, more
Sure.
sequels.
Yeah.
I mean, it
Well-
is maybe a little too early to make that judgment call, but like there certainly are some. When we get right down to like, if we want to dive into the other part of this question right now, which is obviously the big things that came out of this announcement the past week, was that Sony apparently rejected the pitch for Days Gone 2, which my assumption since the release of Days Gone 1 was that they are obviously already hard at work on Days Gone 2, and like finding out, right, not to say that Days Gone 2 would never happen, but the fact finding out that it isn't already like 2 years into development is a huge disappointment, obviously. And who knows if or when that IP will ever come back. Like it blows my mind because Days Gone, when you look at it from a number standpoint, was kind of one of the most successful, fresh, completely original IP that Sony has done in the past, 6 or 7 years. It's
Yeah, but
kind of crazy to me.
It seems like the critical response wasn't there, and just like
I know, and that was another part
just
of
like
this article
the
was that, like,
people who
Sony
talk
puts a lot
about
of,
games weren't talking about that one, is what it
but
seemed like.
Sony apparently puts a lot of weight on Metacritic score as opposed to sales and fan demand.
They do, and so my assumption, Nick, and once again, this is just me assuming things. Days Gone does not have a TV show coming out soon, and so
They're
my
putting all
assumption
their
could
eggs in that
be
basket for sure.
my assumption could be that, hey, if we do a remake of this game and then the TV show comes out, a bunch of people are going to be like, oh, I remember that game. I now want to buy the remake and get even more money. That is one of my assumptions as to what's
Right.
going on. The only problem with that logic is there's also an Uncharted movie coming out. So why didn't they do an Uncharted 1 remake? Besides, I guess they technically do have the Nathan Drake collection, which I know is not a remake, it's a remaster. But
nobody really knows what this Last of Us remake is going to be. But I've been thinking about it a lot because my first reaction, along with most of the world, was, why the fuck do we need a remake of a game that's not even 8 years old? It's barely 8 years old. That still looks and plays great. And my first reaction tended to be like, I don't want that. I don't care about that. I don't think it's necessary. And then I was thinking about, I could see why maybe you could justify making it. If you want to make that first game more like a more organic experience with the sequel, so make them play very similarly. There's a lot of work to be done there. There's a lot
Yeah.
more
But you could
room
say that
and
about
no,
any game
you're right. You're right. But
any
at the same time,
sequel.
I'm just thinking about like how would they what would make them what would justify to them to do it?
Mhm.
And I was just thinking like if you take those mechanics from 2 and you drop them into the first game, you suddenly have to make all those environments bigger to accommodate like how much like that game was like just way more expansive in terms of the way you control the character and the movement and all the shit going on. So like naturally you would want to expand all those environments. And then there's all because of the way that story was structured, there's also a ton of room to add like new like smaller stories in because it was like based on seasons and there was like a lot of like time jumps
Yeah.
and there's
But
stories they
again,
could add.
I literally feel like you could say that about you could say that about Red Dead Redemption or fucking
I'm just saying
Oblivion. I mean, you can say about anything.
you can. I'm just saying I don't like if this is a thing that they're going to make, I highly doubt when it does come out it's going to be like a one-to-one remake of the first one that just looks a little bit prettier. It's probably going to be a much bigger it's going to be much more comparable to 2 in terms of scope, I feel like, than that first one. The only thing I was questioning was like what do? You don't you would never want to recast those characters. You wouldn't want to re-record those lines. So you would want to
Why
take all
would
that
they?
stuff because I mean, if you expand it, you obviously have to bring them back in to record more stuff. But then,
I
like,
think
if they change it fundamentally, all of a sudden, does the acting and the lines they've already done fit if they've into these new environments they've built?
Well,
Like, it's just there's all these weird questions about it. So it's kind of
well,
like,
well, two
why?
things. First off, we don't know how much cutting room floor stuff there was for The Last of Us 1.
I'm sure
There
there's
could have
plenty,
been a shit ton of stuff because that game was in development for quite a while.
right?
And
But it was
and
also a very tight experience. Like you get the sense when you play that game that like if something didn't make the cut, maybe it was for a reason
and
because
the other thing is that I would if Sony really is big on Metacritic scores and critical response and things like that, then I would if I were in their shoes, I would be kind of worried about releasing a remake of The Last of Us 1 in which the content is different. Because The Last of Us 1 is such a celebrated game that you mess with anything and you will get criticized.
no, you're right. I honestly I think of all the things that we've talked like they talk about like a lot of people look at this remake of Last of Us 1 as like the safe bet, but I honestly think this might be like maybe the more high risk choice because if
high
you're gonna
risk
do that, you
versus
better
what exactly?
I
Versus
mean,
like Uncharted 1 or Days Gone 2. But don't you think that it's a high risk choice to spend 10 minutes on one of several questions?
sure.
And
Yeah, that's
the
true.
But
High risk.
this is the news topic I wanted to
Well, I know.
dive into the most.
Yeah,
I've been thinking about this fucking
that's
all
true.
week
This is kind
long.
of a cool, an interesting news topic.
No, it is.
Hmm.
But it's also us
It's
just
still
wildly
weird.
speculating things because we don't know anything. But yeah,
You're
all
right.
right,
That's
let's
true.
move on because we still have several more questions we were trying to get to tonight.
Technically speaking, this is
I'll-
a news topic, but I'm just using
I know.
the viewer questions to
You're
spark the
using
discussion.
our community members. I get it, Nick. They
Yes.
feel great about that. I'll also note that Ash from the Burdican asked a similar question about Days Gone 2, so I'm just going to include his question in this one. So thanks, Ash. Let's move on, though, to another news topic question from Gigamir from Kentucky. This is another fun one. In an interview with David Jaffe, the Days Gone creative director said that, quote, if you love a game and want a sequel, you should buy it at fucking full price, end quote.
I think the
It's
fucking
weird
is
he
part of
said
the quote,
this.
right?
Yeah. It's weird he said this because Days Gone sold incredibly well, especially in its launch month, falling only second to Mortal Kombat 11, according to MPD. It even hit 5.5 million users mid 2020. The only explanation people seem to have for Sony's disinterest is that Metacritic score. putting your own feelings about the game aside, what do you think Sony Bend, could have done differently to better appeal to mainstream critics? What do you think those people were looking for? Could Sony using it too close to close an E3 have played some kind of role? I guess because they closed E3 with Days Gone.
Yeah.
I mean, E3 closing E3 with that was probably the best way to expose people to that game. That was a great
Oh no,
way
yeah,
to show off
dude.
that game.
Everyone was pretty hyped on it. If I
Yeah.
recall, in that conference.
I mean,
I think a lot of the maybe the quote unquote disinterest in it comes from a certain amount of people, are tired of zombies just in general as a general genre. Like maybe they're burnt out on it.
Or they saw it as like, yeah, we already care about one of your zombie franchises, Sony. Tell us more about The Last of Us.
Yeah.
I mean,
Maybe.
it doesn't help that
But, like,
a double A zombie shooter came out like 2 weeks before that.
But once it was out, here's the thing about like this style of game. Most of the time, especially if it's a new IP, like the first time around for these big open world story based games, the first time around is usually very formulaic and doesn't take a ton of risks, um, because they don't necessarily have the budget to go like hog wild. They wait for like proof of proof of interest before like throwing a ton of money behind a sequel. Like think of Assassin's Creed to Assassin's Creed 2. Like the jump there was insane. And that's just kind of how that series picked up steam. And I can say the same thing about like Far Cry 3 to like Far Cry 4 and I don't want to say 5 necessarily, but like those series got better over time. And that first game, even if it was looked back on positively, is almost always the inferior.
Now, how are you
variant.
gonna say? How are you gonna say that the jump from Assassin's Creed 1 to 2 was insane without saying Assassin's Creed 2 had so much money thrown at it, while the first one they weren't sure and they just had to take a leap of faith?
Oh God.
God
I was
damn
like,
it.
where is Nolan going with this? Of course it's the dad joke.
That would
gamer
have been a
joke.
better way to word it. I follow you though, Nick, and I understand and I get it. But I
here's
do
the
also
thing.
Mhm.
This whole thing is like a lot of people jumped on it as like Days Gone 2 is not happening, and that might very well be the case right now. But what really happened here was a pitch for Days Gone 2 was
Correct.
rejected. Doesn't mean they can't pitch it again and get it accepted. Especially
Yeah.
like there's a petition going around now. There's like all kinds of like
So-
this is becoming like a big deal.
Yeah, but
So that's what I wanted to
but-
bring up. So hold on. So let's take a few steps back. Days Gone, when the first one came out, or so let's even go farther back. When the first one was pitched, zombies were still pretty fucking big.
Mhm.
Like people hadn't gotten tired of zombies yet. Yes, and the time it went through its development and came out, we were on the tail end of zombies kind of being cool.
They're still cool,
Since
by the
that
way.
game is, I know, I'm not saying they're not. Since that game has come out, we have now gotten a sequel to a huge fucking zombie game, which was The Last of Us 2. And who knows what that pitch for Days Gone 2 was? It might have kind of been a bad pitch. Maybe they honestly just didn't like it and didn't think it would be productive and sell well. And I don't know. I mean, would you be upset if they had pitched a really shitty game and they came back with a better pitch and all of a sudden we got a better Days Gone 2?
Here's the thing:
has happened.
they're not letting these people just kind of. Usually a rejected pitch, I think it means that they probably liked another thing that they had been, working on, throwing around instead. So a rejected pitch means that they're probably working on something else.
Well, here's
It's
the
not
thing
like they got months. They're gonna pay them months and months just to try to pitch Days Gone 2 again. They're probably working on something else now.
Well, they are, of course. I mean, the studios are always working on something, but there was a lot of talk about Sony Bend being put on this Uncharted game, that they were going to be working on a spin-off of Uncharted that wasn't Uncharted 5, but like a spin-off of Uncharted that has since been canceled, or Sony Bend has been taken off of that project in favor of continuing to do their own properties and whatnot. They could be doing a sequel to Siphon Filter. Who the fuck knows what they're doing? But the point is, right now, they're not doing Days Gone 2. And a lot of the people who were heavily involved with Days Gone 1, the people higher up on the ladder, like the creative director who did that Jaffe interview, is no longer with the company. And it begs the question of like, did they leave the company because that pitch was rejected and they didn't want to work on a game that wasn't
he
Days
readily
Gone 2?
admits in that interview that he left, and it's possible that it could have got greenlit. Another pitch for Days Gone 2 could have gotten greenlit since he left. So
Yeah.
I mean, pitches
And by
don't get
left, I mean
rejected because they're like, oh, bikers again, come up with a new idea. Pitches get rejected because they're like, we're not going to make Days Gone 2. It's not going to make the money we think we want to make. It's not like, it's just not like
they're not rejecting a pitch because of like a character design or like
Right.
like a little bit of theming or something. They're rejecting the pitch as like a money making proposal. Like what he doesn't say is that they were commissioned for a pitch or anything. They weren't.
Yeah.
They were doing it on spec, and Sony said, "No, we don't want to do that."
Yeah.
That's damning.
Maybe it's because they didn't want Days Gone 2. They wanted Days Back.
Days back.
Days back.
Days gone again.
As a final thought, because I know a lot of people sent me condolences when this happened, and I get it. I was the last time I was this kind of devastated by a piece of news, gaming related news, was PT. So I took it kind of hard, but I'm not. I think that series will probably make a return at some point. It just might be a couple years down the road. Who the hell knows?
Yeah.
well, not a couple, but yeah.
But to like
I'm trying to be optimistic, man.
Yeah. to the original one of the original points of the question, like what could have improved its critical reception, the two things I would point to would be, at least from my perspective, would be number one, how a lot of the content was kind of gated in the first half of the game. Like you don't gain access to a bunch of stuff until close to nearly the end of the game. And so like opening that stuff up, I think would have made for a better open world experience. The other thing I would say is that the second half of that game honestly may have been better spent as like an expansion or even like the foundation for a Days Gone 2. Like that second half of the game, like it's not to go into spoilers, but like it is a shift in focus.
Listen,
but you know what? But you know what we've learned? You know what we've learned is that maybe it's a good thing they didn't do that, because Days Gone 2, if they had left it on a cliffhanger, or they do leave it on a cliffhanger, kind of, but like the story they're telling in Days Gone,
kind of.
I mean, there is a secret ending.
No, I know, and it's not a kind of cliffhanger.
No.
It was
I know, but like
we've got big plans for the future. Like,
Yeah,
right. But what I'm referring to is like the main driving force of the character and the personal story they're telling in Days Gone 1 is wrapped up, and like it's a good thing they didn't decide to split that story and save it for a sequel, because
let's be glad that Chris Davis doesn't work at Bend, because he would be having us paying for Days Gone for the rest of our lives.
But which
Nick
I would gladly do.
How many revenue streams can we create out of this?
How can I incorporate NFTs into this?
All right, we're gonna move on. We're gonna move on.
Yes,
but I do want to end this by just saying this really sucks about Days Gone 2. I haven't given up hope, but the good news is Days Gone 1 feels like a very complete experience, and it's great. And I think more people should play it. So I'm thankful for that.
All right. Moving on.
Okay.
Next question this week from Negative Cosine. Gacha systems are mainly seen in mobile games, but with the success of Genshin Impact, do you think publishers will rush to cram gacha systems into their games now that loot boxes are taboo?
I mean, they're not that far off from loot boxes, so
we're there.
They're already here.
We're there, man.
Well, welcome to the future.
And like your question is framed around this like mentality of like there's mobile games and then there's video games, which I promise you developers aren't looking at it like that.
Don't see that.
Even in games where they're not like charging money for like the gacha mechanic, you still see those kinds of systems in a lot of Japanese games, like the talisman system in Monster Hunter, right?
Yeah.
Or like Xenoblade 2 was all about like this gacha system of drawing characters, right? It's I think people, whether they're spending money on it or not, kind of like these systems, and I kind of get it. There's a little bit of a rush, right? After a hunt,
Yeah.
what talismans am I going to get? Let's go check them out, right? It's the excitement of knowing that you could potentially get some god roll.
I don't.
Yeah,
I don't.
sure.
I
That's
don't think you
exciting.
have to worry about like a future where like every game in existence is fueled by gotcha transactions. You know what I mean? That's not going to happen. But I feel like you're
Okay.
definitely going to see a steady stream
Someone clip
of.
this.
Well, yeah, I hope I'm
That's never gonna happen.
knock on some fucking wood right now. But I think we answered it. Next question.
All right, moving on. Next question from Mr. Green Toast from Tejas. Have you ever successfully returned to an ancient save file versus just starting over from scratch? If so, how long was it between? Good question.
Yes, I once returned to a Final Fantasy IX save, thinking like, 'cause I was like, I started this, it's been a few years, I guess. I think it was a lot longer than that, but I turned it on. I was like, let's see where I was, and I was literally in the room before fighting the final boss, and I had never at that point I had never finished the game. Uh, so I apparently played all the way to the very end and stopped. So I like when I finally picked it back up, I just ran around to kind of get the feel for the combat again, and then fought the final boss and finished the game.
Yeah, I do that
Wait,
with a few
wait,
RPGs.
and which one?
9. That
I
was my
did the
first time.
exact same thing at 9. The exact same thing.
That was a long time ago though for me. That because
I waited
got
a
that game.
year to finish that game, and it was just like run through this last dungeon, fight the final boss, and I had no idea what was going on.
Yeah, I got the and that is still my favorite Final Fantasy, and I don't know how this happened, but like I got that the Christmas in the year that it came out, and I played it for so long, and I got so far, and I got to that final boss, and then I don't know what the fuck happened, but it wasn't for like another 3 or 4 years that I finally came back, picked up that save file, and finished it.
You probably would have finished it, the first time around if the strategy guide wasn't a piece of shit.
I was young and stupid. That's why I didn't finish it.
So
Anybody else?
there's a couple for me that I at least can vividly remember. Both SNES games. The first one was Super Mario World. I had gotten so far in that game when I was younger and then just never finished it. And then I think maybe mid-teens, I went back to it and ended up finishing the game, going through Star World and all that stuff. And that was a good one. And the other one was A Link to the Past. The first time I played that game, I think it took me like 3 years to finish it.
Wow.
Because I didn't have the internet back then. I didn't have like a strategy guide. And like none of my like friends were playing it. So it was literally just me trying to figure out what to do in the game. And I think eventually I put it down and just played other games or something. And then I went back to it and ended up finishing the game. And it, of course, ended up being one of my favorite Zeldas of all time. So I'm glad I did. But yeah, those are two ones I vividly remember.
I've tried to become a person that doesn't, well, not try necessarily, but like now, if I think about going back to a game that I started in the past, I'm always like, no, I'm just gonna start the fucking thing over. It doesn't even matter.
Depending on how far I am, a lot more so lately, I lean towards just restarting it.
I am way more likely to just not play it than jump back into a save file that has already been started at this point.
I mean, as long as
Alright.
it's not a very far in save file, like if it's 60 hours in, like maybe I'll just log into it and maybe relearn how to play. I won't restart.
Brute force, man up. Trust your brain. You'll soon as you start playing it again, shit will click. It'll come back to you, and you'll be like, "Oh, I could do this."
Half the time, it's not even about like trying to remember how to play. Like sometimes it's just like I was playing primarily for story purposes, and I don't remember anything that happened. So like,
hit up a video on YouTube.
I'm not like Carlos. I can't just hit up Wikipedia and be satisfied. It can't happen.
It's Wikipedia.
You haven't even tried it.
All right. Next question this week from Steve, also known as Freyham. If you have the knowledge in developing a game, what game would you make and how fun would your game be? It can be either a video game or a board game. Well, my
So
game
would
would
be
not
not
be
fun.
fun at all. It would be miserable.
I would make a game without menus, without numbers. I'm just kidding. I don't know.
No.
There's a reason I prefer to play and talk about games than develop them.
My game would involve teledildonics.
Jesus Christ.
That's a very weird word that I know exactly what it means. All right there, right on the. You know, I had an idea.
He was ready with that. He had that prepared. Like he had that in his back pocket. Like I'm just waiting for the right time to bust this word out. And that
No,
was
it wasn't in his pocket. It was somewhere else.
On the dick joke, no one's gonna take my answer seriously, but that's fine. I'll go ahead. A couple weeks ago, I was thinking about how I really like it when indie devs just get like this one weird little idea in their head, and then they just like have to make a game about it. And you know, they usually end up making these like really small games. It's just about like one little aspect of life, one little thing. You know,
You mean like games where you blink?
yeah, like games where you blink, right? Like that's a great example of like this one idea that someone just like turned into a little thing, right?
I also think of like donut, like donut.
Donut County.
County.
Conan is like that
Mhm.
kind of thing, like just holes and things
I
falling into
would-
them.
I was a couple weeks ago, I was like working and I was just looking for like chill videos to like watch in the background to like kind of calm me down at work. And I started watching like videos about Japanese and Chinese tea ceremonies, like different kinds of tea ceremonies. And they're so cool and it's like really intricate and really fascinating. And I was like, man, it'd be really great if I knew how to make a cheap little video game and I could just make a video game about making tea in like a ceremonial manner, like doing like green matcha tea or something like that. And I don't know why, I think that would be like super fucking chill.
See, this is why I think Crispy is like an actual artist. I feel like if we were to make a
I
game,
mean, it's a cool idea, but I mean, he hasn't made it yet, Nick.
I haven't made it yet. Yeah.
I mean,
sorry.
Papers, Please is an excellent, demonstration of gamifying, just pushing, reading documents,
Yeah.
Carrie says, "Pitch it to Sony, Crispy."
Yeah.
Match 3 puzzle game. Green matcha gotcha or
Matcha gotcha. There you go.
I mean, it's like you got to do everything very perfectly. Like you got to whisk just the right number of times, and you got to go in the right direction, and you have to use
Vanillaware should do the art.
scoops.
I would just
Yeah,
worry that your
Vanillaware
game would
should
have a
do
lot
the
of
art.
motion controls.
Oh,
That
this
would
is
be really cool.
this is it, guys. This
Cool.
is it. I like this. That's it. That's the game. That's the That's the only answer. It's a tea ceremony. Side Real in chat says tea ceremony hero.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's all about like just centering yourself and like reconnecting with the natural world and just living in the moment and experience as a once in a lifetime event. That's it.
Man.
That's the game.
You know what? In the same spirit, but since Brad said Vanillaware, because I always think about Muramasa the Demon Blade. I want Vanillaware to make a game that's just like about eating or preparing sushi.
Yeah. That
Oh
would
my
be
God.
really cool. That would be very cool, especially if you had to do like everything that goes into making really great sushi.
It would be
Like-
a VR game, so you have to like fillet like the fish with a knife, and you gotta be like very precise with it. And then you have to roll. You gotta roll the rice.
But
Like,
do you want to
later
go
on
like
in the game? Like at first you start like doing like short order like sushi. Then later on in the game, when you become like a respected sushi chef, you're doing omakase. So like you are planning and like deciding a menu for guests, and you have to like impress them. Like you have to like really show your stuff and like show them something that they're not expecting, and that really like.
But
Them,
But Mike-
both Crispy and Nick just described different levels in Cooking Mama.
Basically.
I
Yeah.
want to be Cooking Mama.
But
Have
but
you not?
Mike,
I haven't.
my question for y'all is which route do you go with this game? Do you go for like the kind of super serious route that you're talking about, or do you like Surgeon Simulator where it's like just goofing around trying to figure it out?
I don't think I would approach it cynically or like ironically. I think I would definitely approach it sincerely.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't let that make it be like an oppressive or like rigid experience, you know? Like it's supposed to be a bit of whimsy, a bit of levity.
Speaking of levity, I'd make a game where you're like a piece of bread and you're trying to find things in the environment that would toast you, and you have like QWOP inspired controls, and it's like all goofy.
That
and
would be
awkward
a
to get
great
around.
fucking video game. I bet it has an excellent soundtrack.
I would make a
does it?
game about. I don't know. Let's move on. Next question.
All right, final question we're gonna answer this evening from Frodo Body Inspector.
Frodo
Okay.
Body Inspector. Is that like Frodo Baggins, but Frodo Body Inspector?
I hope so.
Yeah, sure. Which one would you prefer? Have a small flock of tiny birds attack you every time you go outside, or have a fly try to go up your nose every time you go to the bathroom?
Ooh, I do birds go outside because I never go outside.
Give me the birds. Give me the birds.
Yeah, especially during a pandemic, I go outside a lot less than I use the bathroom. So
Y'all sound like y'all are speaking from people who have never had a bird attack you. And let me tell you
Birds are
something.
the worst.
It's not fucking fun.
No.
little
Like all those
bastards.
videos on
Have
YouTube
you
of
ever
people
seen
being
the
attacked
video-
by
the old
geese.
video of the girl on her bicycle. She's wearing
Yes.
a helmet, just like
Yes.
bird
Dude,
attacking.
I've had a fucking blue jay attack me. When I was younger, there was a certain time where like blue jays would hang out near my house, and I guess they would have lay eggs, and so they'd have a nest, and they wanted to defend it, but I couldn't. Like, I was on my walk to school, and like almost every day would attack me, and it fucking hurts when they fucking swoop down and peck you in the head.
I think
You know-
you're overestimating the amount of time I spend outside of my house. First of all. Second of all, I feel like I could learn to defend myself against birds. I would very quickly just stop caring about their safety.
You know what else you could do, Crispy?
Get
You
used
could do
to
this.
I will
Exactly.
never the flies
Exactly.
assaulting my nose.
Cover your nose. Double bonus. You don't smell.
Yeah, you
the
don't-
poo smell.
no,
I
even
do.
better,
I need
even
I need
easier.
to throw hands when I go to the bathroom. I got
Even
work.
easier. Just wear your mask that you've been wearing every day for COVID when
Yeah.
you go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Problem solved. Unless you're one of those assholes who wears it with your fucking nose hanging over the top.
The other day, me and Henry, we went to the train. We went to ride on a little train or whatever. We went to get
Or whatever.
We go back to the car, and there was a cardinal the entire time we were gone, which wasn't that long, who had just been like flying into like the side view mirror and like over and over and over again and just shitting all over the side of the car the entire time. The entire door was just covered in shit. It was insane. And the window and the little mirror was all scratched up and scuffed up. And this is the entire time.
This was your car?
And we were I went in
No,
there
it's Henry's car.
buckling Henry in the fucking seat, and the cardinal was still running into the side view mirror.
Wow.
Birds
Did-
are crazy.
Was it rabid?
I
Was it a
don't know.
rabbit
Pretty sure
cardinal?
birds can't get rabies.
Y'all saw the fucking video of the bobcat?
Yeah, I did.
Oh,
my
yeah, that
God.
was. Jeez, man.
That was some fucked up shit. I was
I
not
did not.
expecting it to be as horrifying as it was, but
We'll
my
talk about
Lord.
it after the show. All right, well, that's all the questions we're going to answer this week. Thanks, everybody who submitted questions. Like we've said before, there is a link to the Google form where you can ask a question anytime. It does not have to be right before the show. You can go and ask one now as you're listening to this, and it can be a question about anything. If you do have something that is a current event news-wise, feel free to ask that, and you can label it as such. And we'll try to get that one a little bit sooner. Otherwise, if you asked a question, we will probably get to it eventually.
Yep. Thank you very much, Nolan. And now it's time to wrap up the show with the 4-player minute. So I usually let Brad go first. Hype,
Okay.
sweat, thank you, fuck you, or any combination
Not
thereof.
this year. Not this episode. In an effort to keep the corporations happy, I have all hypes. All hypes, Nick. First,
Fuck
new
off.
trailer for
Bow
Tales of
down to the
Arise.
corporate masters.
New Tales of Arise trailer plus release date, which is September 9th, I believe. I'm excited. We haven't heard about this one in a while. There
Every time
wasn't
I see the game, I feel like it looks different than that. I remember seeing that first trailer and being like, "That looks really cool," but like nothing looks like that anymore.
the thing is, I was never fooled by that first trailer. The shit they were doing in that trailer was the stuff they've been doing in the last couple of Tales of games. People just, I don't know why people were fooled by it, but it was always looking like a Tales of game. But I like the Tales of series, so I'm quite excited. My second hype is for Returnal. I think Returnal looks quite good. Every time they release a new trailer for that, I'm like, wow, this looks fucking cool. I highly recommend y'all check out the latest
Did
trailer
you
they
see any of the
released for that game.
previews that
The
have been
shit
dropping
looks.
this evening?
I have not, but
They're all been very positive.
it looks
Or
cool.
not all of them, but a lot of them have been.
I'm also excited for Subnautica. There's got to be something in May that I'm super excited about, and I guess that's Subnautica before the below zero, whatever it's called. And my final hype is for Tenderfoot Tactics, which was a tactics game that came out last year that I've been interested in. But I was, I had not been sitting in front of my PC a lot, so I've been kind of waiting for all my indie games to come to Switch. Basically, that's just how I roll these days. But this one had a pretty deep sell, and I was sitting on my computer, and I was going to play Monster Hunter today, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to get this and I'm going to play it. And I've been playing it today and it was really cool. Glad I finally tried it. Tenderfoot Tactics. Maybe I'll talk about it more in depth next week, record some footage. And all of these hypes, I just wanted to say, because they're games I'm excited about that isn't the Monster Hunter update that's coming out at the end of the month, which I'm most excited about. But I wanted to highlight to let you know that there are other things on my mind that aren't Monster Hunter, even though I'm like 170 hours and I'm still very excited about other video games.
That's very reassuring, Brad. Thank you. Nolan, your turn.
So I actually also have 4 hypes. Coincidentally, my first hype is we started talking. I don't remember if we did it on the show or during the break or whatever. We started talking about Dragon's Dogma, specifically 2. And that just got me super hyped for that game. I know nothing is 100% official yet. It's all those leaks and whatnot. And who knows if it'll even happen. But I'm really hoping it does, just because so many memories of that first game, and it is so good. That would just make my day. My second hype is for Resident Evil Village Castle demo. I did not get to play the first one, or sorry, I played the first demo. I did not get to play the other one because I didn't realize it was timed. But I'm excited about this one in the castle. I'm hoping Big Mommy Milkers chases me around. I'm excited for that. I want to jump on her belly.
Oh my god! Did you see the hold on the Kotaku article that said you do not want her to step on you, and the whole article was about like the physics of like, hey, she'd like crush your skull or not. But the responses to that headline were, "Go fuck yourself, Kotaku. You don't know me at all. This is exactly what I want. You're so out of fucking touch." It was hilarious.
Yeah.
Horny, suicidal.
A lot of these people getting horny on Maine, I guess, huh?
My third hype is for the new computer I just built.
Oh,
wow.
no! Wait, is that are you on this one right now?
Yes. I got a hold of a 3080 and
Nice.
a 5900X. And
Wait,
it
no,
was
what
an
the fuck?
endeavor and a half.
Bro,
Sorry,
where-
Nick. It didn't happen. You know what, Nick? At this point, honestly, you should just wait for a 3080 Ti.
When is that coming? 2024?
This year.
Sooner than you think. Yeah, I think it's supposed to be this year.
It's
But is
actually
that gonna be any
there's
easier
pictures
to get a hold of, anyways.
Actually,
By
there's
the
pictures
time
out
it
there of
comes
it
out-
being shipped out. It may release like in the next month or two.
But
Yeah.
like, what makes you think it's going to be like you can get your hands on it either?
I mean,
Who
time
did you
will
have to? Who did you have to blow to get that fucking
tell.
graphics card,
Yeah.
Nolan?
Everyone. But the problem was it was a fucking pain in the ass to get everything going. I got a liquid cooler that came in the mail in AIO. I had gotten in my head originally that I was going to do hardline custom loops. But at the end of the day, I was like, dude, fuck that. I don't got time for it. Let me just buy an AIO. And it came in the mail and it was leaking in the box. So I had to go through the process of getting that returned.
Better leaking in the box than in your PC tower.
Yeah, exactly. So I had to get all that returned, but I finally got it all set up just the other day. Like literally, it all finally came together yesterday. And yes, I'm on the new PC now. I'm very excited to start kind of playing some games with next gen graphics. Yeah, Dragon's Dogma. And maybe I'll finally get around to playing Cyberpunk now that I can actually run it.
Did you like get a whole new case and build and everything, or
Yes. The only thing that's coming over from my old PC is one, maybe two of my drives. Everything else is new.
so what are you doing with your old system?
It's going to replace my current server.
Oh,
So
okay.
my server is getting a huge upgrade, and then that old system, I have no idea what's going to happen with that.
Okay.
But anyway, my fourth hype is one of the biggest pains that's kind of been troubling me lately. First off, wood is super fucking expensive. I can't really do any projects right now, but I was kind of wanting to do something, and I had kind of gotten to the thought that my desk that I recently built is bigger than my previous one, but it's also littered with game controllers. And I want to build a mount for my wall to hold all my controllers that can also simultaneously charge them. And so I'm I have some leftover stuff. I mean, you might be able to see it behind me. I'm trying to lay out up some of my planning for what I'm going to do with that. But I'm pretty excited about that. Just to have something, I'm going to try and make it look as nice as I can to put on the wall where I can set my controllers and plug them in so they can charge.
Nice.
But then also just kind of it'll look nice and all my controllers will be in one place
So
instead
they're
of
all
like
going
kind
to
of
be
strewn
charging
about.
at once. You're going to take
So
down the
most
power grid in Georgetown.
So most new controllers, like the Switch and the PS and the DualSense, they will only charge until they're full or X amount of time has passed. I don't think they constantly draw power. I've done a little bit of research, but my other plan is I'm also going to get like a USB hub, plug a bunch of like USB cables into it, but also have that easily accessible so I can essentially just kind of turn it off or have it only run for so long.
Yeah.
But then also like my Xbox controller that I have. It doesn't it takes like rechargeable batteries, so I mean that's not going to be something I plug in. It's the charging is the lesser part of it. The main part for me is going to be just having a spot where I can stick all my controllers.
Real quick, can we go back to wood for a second? Because I got this really sad question. Why is wood getting so hard to find and getting expensive? Is it because we
Supply and
cut down all
demand.
the trees?
No, the trees are not the problem, Brad. This will eventually
they
wood
are.
prices will come down. It's more about supply and demand is really the long and short of it.
Yeah, a lot of people
Supply
are.
that I'm worried
That's the
about.
problem.
Yeah,
The,
a lot
the
of people are
supply
building
is
houses
only
now.
short because the time COVID was the thing, Brad. People weren't cutting down trees as much because they weren't working. All the industries were shut down for a little while, and so there's literally just less wood to buy. So they fucking shoot the prices sky high because
Let
they
me tell
can.
you, they're not building a lot of new houses either because of it.
Oh no, they are, and they're charging a shit ton of money for
Yeah.
that.
Well, yeah. They're not building a lot of houses I can afford.
There's a
Well,
bit of a
yeah,
housing boom going on right now.
Yeah, the fact that all of a sudden everyone has a lot more cash because they haven't been going out, and a lot more people are being able to work remote. That yes, people are buying houses like crazy, and so wood's in short supply because they're building more houses and they're charging more for them, and yeah,
And it really fucking sucks if you live in a high cost market like Austin.
We're doomed.
Jesus.
In other news, it's Crispy's turn.
yep.
All right. Because I'm not a tool of the corporate masters, I have 4 fuck yous this week. No, I don't. I'm sorry. My hype for this week is for Luigi's Mansion 3, which I just bought on a whim on my Switch the
Nice.
other day
It's
when I was
pretty
done
good.
playing Monster Hunter. And I played a little bit of the beginning and already into it. I love Luigi's Mansion. What?
Well, hold
Pretty
on.
good.
What are your opinions on Gooigi?
I haven't gotten to Luigi yet.
Oh, okay. Well, let me know when you do.
I mean, the idea appeals to me greatly. It's going to be an execution thing to see if
All
Luigi
right.
holds up.
We'll follow up with your Luigi impressions later.
My I was gonna say sweat, but I'm not. It's another hype. It's a hype. I really want to try that new No Man's Sky like mission mode that they added in the last big update. They have this new mode that's like, I mean, it still has all like the MMO crossover elements that the normal game does, but it's mission based and everybody starts on the same planet. and your missions are all about like moving to different planets and achieving certain milestones. And it sounds very interesting and very different from what the rest of the game is. And they're going to like a seasonal model. It looks awesome. My my fuck you for the week goes to some ad I saw on Twitter. I was browsing Twitter and I saw an ad for a free-to-play trading card game that was using NFTs. Like it would make like like you would buy booster packs and the cards would be NFTs, and like I really just had to stop for a second. It was like absolutely flabbergasted. It sounds like the most vile, like absolutely horrendous shit I've ever heard of, and
Dude, this thought just popped
I
into
think we're all fucked.
Did Star Citizen invent NFTs years ago?
Yeah, dude, they came fucking close, didn't they?
Basically.
They came real fucking
You're not
close.
that wrong.
And my thank you, I guess. Yeah.
Always the hardest for all of us.
Oh, whatever. I'm just gonna do another hype. I bought Totally Accurate Battle Simulator. Want to play that?
Nice.
Sounds
Nice.
cool.
Alrighty. Thank you, Crispy. Chris Davis. You're up.
So I don't have a thank you, but I've got two hypes and a sweat and a fuck you.
Go for it.
My first hype, so I'm really glad that Sony has changed their mind on shutting down the PS3 and the Vita servers. PSP is still going to go, but still, that's nice. But during that period, that panic period, I went on eBay and I bought a bunch of PS3 games. And they've been arriving over this past week. I bought like 10 of them.
You just went to GameStop.
I don't want to give GameStop my money. I'm so tired of that company. I'm not going to give them any of my money.
What'd you get?
I've got my eBay up here right now. Actually, I bought the Resistance trilogy because I never played 3.
Dude, 3's so good.
That's what I've heard from everybody is that 3 is good. I never played 3, so I was able to get a decent deal on this. Heavenly Sword. I never played that, so I got that.
Huh. That'd be interesting to go.
The first 2 Infamous games.
Nice.
You know, after playing Ghost of Tsushima, I kind of wanted to go back and look at those again. I never played Motorstorm, so I got that one too.
First one?
Yeah, I never played the first Motorstorm, so I got that. It was $5. Why not? I got Killzone 2 and 3 because I did enjoy those. I also got Killzone Shadowfall, which I didn't mention during impressions, but I played through over this past week. And I was
That's so random.
I know it's kind of random, but I kind of want to
Does it suck.
Yeah, it kind of does. It kind of does.
It was a launch title.
It's the thing about Killzone Shadowfall is that it's nice to see like that foundation of that art that went into Horizon eventually. But that game does kind of suck. It's a setup for a sequel that never happened.
Well, you are talking about a launch title.
Yeah. And I also got the Legacy Collection of Metal Gear Solid. That should arrive Saturday.
Nice.
So, yeah, I'm going to see about ordering more. But, yeah, it's good to have those. Because there is a rumor that's been going around that some updates for some disc-based games are no longer available to download. Luckily, none of these games appear to be on that list, but I want to get those in now to get those updates as well. My second hype was for the other Resident Evil game that's in the news right now, which is Resident Evil 4 for the Quest 2, the VR version of this game. It's in first person. It's doing the Alex thing where you got the hands, but not like the full body action. And what they're doing, the work they've put into this based on the footage is pretty substantial. Like the case, like Brad was mentioning earlier, yeah, that's like a full thing now. Your communicator is a full thing now that you pull out and press buttons to communicate with Hunnigan or whoever.
Oh, that's cool.
The typewriter, you literally type in the name of your save in order to save.
That's cool.
Like there's a bunch of things that are doing it, and this is being done by Armature, by the way, right here in Austin.
Oh shit!
So it looks like a quality product. My only problem is that it's exclusive to the Quest 2. But that being said, you know it's going to be jailbroken. Everyone is going to find a way to get to work on whatever VR headset they have. So that's kind of cool. My sweat though is for the castle demo for Resident Evil 8, based on what I experienced and what I talked about during the impressions of the Village demo. I'm hopeful that it's a better experience with the castle demo, but I'm not crossing my fingers. I kind of have a bad taste in my mouth.
You should cross your fingers because there's no high stakes in crossing your fingers. Crossing your fingers.
You're
means
saying you're
hope
not
it's
holding
good.
you're not holding your breath. Is what you?
I'm not holding my breath. I'm sorry. That's
Okay.
what. Yeah. And my fuck you this week goes to Ubisoft. Recently, they announced that they're shutting down their servers for a bunch of older games. They're shutting down servers for, let me read you the list: Anno 1404, Assassin's Creed 2, Far Cry 2, Might and Magic Clash of Heroes, Might and Magic X, Prince of Persia: Forgotten Sands, Splinter Cell Conviction, The Settler 7, and Rainbow Six Vegas 1 and 2. My main reason for the fuck you is that every time Ubisoft does this, they don't provide any legacy or information for their multiplayer code in order for people to figure out how to continue experiencing those games on their own separately. So there always has to be some fucking like Tungle solution or like just some other thing that people have to figure out how to hack in order to let people play this stuff. And it's just terrible every fucking time that they have to do this. Like, just
Might and Magic Clash of Heroes, man. Some good multiplayer too.
There's
a good game.
These are quality games on this list, and
Toby Tungle sounds like an adventure game from the 90s.
well, Tungle, I don't know if y'all know this. It was a tool people used in order to emulate Xbox Live on the original Xbox. So you could play Xbox Live multiplayer games. It had long since been shut down on that console again. It was a pretty cool tool.
A Tungle solution just sounded really dirty to me.
Basically, it for example, it allowed people to play Halo 1 multiplayer online.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So,
all right. Is it my turn?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'm going to show you how it's done. A 4-player minute. My first hype is for Resident Evil Village. Despite what I was saying earlier about, I didn't play the demo and I'm a little concerned about it. I am deep down very, very, very excited for this because I love Resident Evil as a series. There's only been one game in that whole series that I just straight up didn't like, and that was 6. So,
are you going to play the castle demo on Friday?
I don't know. I haven't decided yet. We'll see.
You don't have a lot of time to decide.
You're right. My second hype goes to Nier Replicant, which shipped out today. I'm looking forward to re-experiencing Nier. That first game was really ugly, but like the thought of kind of experiencing that story, seeing a more polished, kind of more prettier looking version of that story sounds really great. And it might be just kind of what I mean,
it's not that same story though. It's a completely different story.
I know. I mean, but
it's not completely different. But
it's not completely different, but there's enough differences there.
Do they still have the fishing in the game?
I think so.
Probably.
My sweat goes to, of course, Days Gone 2. It's a real fucking bummer that
time's up.
It's not already. God, my fuck you goes to Chris Davis. Y'all were just asking me questions to try and stall me. My sweat goes to Days Gone 2. It's a real fucking bummer that game that pitch was rejected. But I'm optimistic that at some point in the future that game will eventually happen. Even if it's not going to happen relatively soon. It fucking sucks. But you know what? I'm still pretty hopeful because that was a financial success. It didn't just completely flop, which I feel like would be a complete death sentence. And I don't know if this is a hype or a sweat because there's a lot of stuff on this list to be nervous about maybe, but it's also pretty hype that Capcom leak or the ransomware thing that you were talking about was from. You said back in November, but we're starting to see some of those things that were on the list happen. So
Mhm.
it's once again reaffirming that it is accurate. There's a lot of stuff on that list to be excited for. There's a new Onimusha game on that list. There's a Dragon's Dogma 2. There's a bunch of Resident Evil, including Revelations 3.
Seven Resident Evil titles.
7 Resident Evil titles. And you know what?
That's how you know
I-
it's real.
That's how you know it's real. But you know what? Resident Evil, there's that one that you said Resident Evil Outrage, right? And I was like, that sounds like maybe a Resident Evil Outbreak spiritual successor. But what if Resident Evil Outrage is like Resident Evil 9? Like that's like what they've already decided on the name for like the follow, because there's going to be 3 games that are like 7, 8, and 9 are going to be very similar, I would imagine. So like maybe 9 is called Outrage and we already know the fucking title, which would be weird.
But how do you figure the IX into that name though?
I don't know. They should just ditch that shit. It's stupid. But yeah, that's there's a lot of stuff to be excited about. I'm into Monster Hunter now, so throw that on the the pyre. I'm into it. But yeah, that's my 4-player minute, and that, ladies and gentlemen, puts a bow on this episode of the show. Of course, guys, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for subscribing to the show. If you want to support us financially, please go over to patreon.com/4player. For a little $1 a month, you can ask us whatever the hell you want on a future episode of the show. You can help us determine news topics and all that good stuff, or you can just subscribe on Twitch, either way. But regardless of whether you give us money or not, discord.gg/4player is important. It's there for all of us to hang out, talk about games, stay connected as a community. So check us out there. Do y'all have any closing thoughts, or should I wrap this up?
Bye.
Nope.
They're all
Go
saying
get vaccinated.
Fuck you, we're done. All right. Good
Bye,
night, everybody.
guys.
We'll see you next week. Peace out.
Night.